Hi guys, doing a sound here. Welcome back to the live stream. Welcome to what is supposed to be Warframe. Um, it's taking a while to um boot up, so I think I'll go pop into the TennoCon um the TennoCon live stream for a little bit before, until um until Warframe decided to uh uh blew up, I guess. Let me turn down my music or turn off completely.
And the Warframe community, we have begun releasing Prime trailers again. So this year, Tenno have been greeted by not only an Octavia Prime Access launch trailer, but also a Gara Prime trailer. So that's two fully voiced, fully scored, fully sound designed Prime videos. And you know, what a way to do 2021. And I would like to talk to each of you about bringing these trailers back, because a lot of it, you know, you got to capture the perfect gameplay, get the cinematics in, but the sound and the memorable music and Ballas's voice, it's all back. And why don't you talk to us a little bit about that process? I'll start with, let's just go right to Keith about scoring these videos.
Oh yeah.
I have to give George the credit for always pushing me to find really to find something that I haven't done before, and that's exciting and scary. And but with the two trailers that we did recently, I think I think it's opened things up musically for us. I think it's actually I think we could do anything, just about anything musically now, don't you think, George?
I
Oh
100%
yeah.
agree. Like, I think when we did the Octavia one, it like I showed it to some people around the office, and people were like, "Oh, I don't know, the music's really different. Like, is this gonna work?" And it's like, yeah, it's gonna work because it sounds effing cool, right? Like, it's gonna be awesome. And I think that speaks to, again, like we said, I mean, we've worked on Warframe for what is it, 7, 8 years now. Keeping things new and fresh and exciting, right? If you wanted to hear the first soundtrack again, you could listen to the first soundtrack again. You want to hear something new. And so, again, going to Keith and getting him to write some cool new stuff really worked out well, I think. Um, yeah, and some cool instrumentation in it, some great, like you mentioned, Rebecca, voice acting from Ballas. The voice actor Max does a fantastic job at that. That guy.
Oh yeah.
And here's a little behind the scenes thing is a lot of our actors we direct, and we'll direct them live. Just to make sure that they get the feel and the vibe of things. But because Max knows Ballas so well now, he we literally email him. I'll email him the lines, and he'll send me 5 or 6 takes, and they're all gold. And it's like, which one do you want to put in? And it's like, I don't know, let's put them in. And he's fantastic at it.
So appropriate that his lines are gold in so many ways in his work. And thank you about
Very
that.
appropriate. Yes. Yeah, and the sound designers, all of them, fantastic job on putting the sound design together for them, doing the mixes. Um,
Well,
they usually take a while. They take even though they're like what, a minute, minute and a half. It's very detailed work, but it's also fun. I don't know. I mean, Eric, how do you feel about working something linear like a cinematic and a trailer versus working on the game? It's a different experience, right? Like,
Absolutely, yeah. Working on a game, you're sort of always creating an audio universe and something that you can live in. Uh, Working on a trailer is more like creating a play or something that happens, and you get to observe. So it's nice to work on that, and especially working on Prime trailers with such great music and the voice, and it really helps you sort of like lift your sound design to another level, or trying to match it to the vibe that's happening. So it's a really fun experience as a sound designer to work on one of those. I love it.
I love watching them, and every time I see that there's one in progress, a part of my heart just skips a beat because I know the finished product is just going to be absolutely stellar. And I'm so glad that this year we not only got one, but two Prime trailers. And you know, this is the first panel of the day. We will be revealing the next Prime later on in, you know, the art panel and the keynote. And I actually don't know, are we working on yet another Prime video or all things New War?
This is news to me, so we probably will. But yeah, I mean, I think right now it's all things New War. But yeah, we'll carve out some time to work on a Prime trailer, I'm sure. You know, as we always do, you know, always fun to work on, and you know, they're refreshing in that sense. So yeah, we'll do something.
We also had the opportunity to release Ureli and the first ever in-game comic quest in Warframe in the Sisters of Parvos update. Now, when it comes to doing an in-game comic, you can just take a look and read through it. But you guys made the choice to narrate it entirely in its own narrative style. How did that come about, George?
Yeah, another really interesting thing, right? Like, it's like, who would have thought we would have put a comic in Warframe? But here we have it. Yeah, kind of another organic thing that kind of came about of like, hey, let's tell the quest from a comic point of view, and you know, and get Boone to narrate it and write some custom music for it and do some custom sound design for it. And Carl, who's one of the sound designers on our team, he did all the sound design for it. So as you're turning the pages, you hear the water sounds for Ureli, and you know, you hear all the background sounds and all that kind of stuff too. So yeah, so that was super cool to work on as well.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it was such a change of pace from the Sevagoth call, the Tempestari. It was a nice balance of, I mean, you know,
I did prefer
a lot of very poignant endings.
actually in the quest.
Experience for Warframe players. So sound team brought it,
So then that's
and
reading
you're
about
going to
it.
get even more because, as many players have been waiting for, the New War script is done, and this is literally
Oh shit!
I hope no one has like special vision to
No, we'll blur it too. But this is the New War quest in all its glory. It is the longest quest we've ever written, and like you said at the start, George, you start by reading the quest. So when it comes to sound design, you looked and you were picking out slots of where things are to be, you know, designed from scratch. And from what I hear, we have a very special behind-the-scenes video made by your team.
Yeah, man. I just want to say, like, yeah, it's in three parts.
Hey.
It's huge, the quest. So it's super exciting. You guys, when you play it, you're gonna love it. Like, honestly, like, this is the most ambitious thing we've done from all departments. Visually, audio, animation, the art, everything super cool. And yeah, all of the sound team has been working super hard. And you know, I have to mention all of their names. We've got Carl, we've got Willem, we've got Eric, we've got Travis, we've got Jeff, we've got Mark, we've got Jess, we've got Slater, and we've got Jem, fantastic audio programmer. And they really make a lot of the magic happen that you guys hear in the game. It goes beyond who you're seeing on screen here, that's for sure. So a lot of hard work for all of it.
Well, let's take a look at what they've been up to in this behind the scenes of some of the audio design.
Hello everyone, I'm Carl Mattis, one of the sound designers here at Digital Extremes, and I want to show you a little behind the scenes of what lies behind the sounds of Ureli.
Oh yeah, I was wondering about this.
As you may know, Ureli is all about water. She's charismatic, she flows through the levels with Merulina, and at the same time she's powerful with her abilities. The big challenge with Ureli was balancing her charisma and power in her sounds. He needed to have a sense of flow and a little bit of magic as she bends water into the enemies. It would have been ideal to have her speak in that kind of anime style, but Warframe don't speak, so that was a no-go for me. Instead, what I did was capture the frequencies, the resonance shifting frequencies that are typical in anime sounds, and inject them just a little bit into her abilities. Of course, there was a lot of water involved. Buckets of water filling in and out, rock splashes, all of the water sounds that I could find.
Okay, guys, take some notes.
I hope you enjoyed this quick look at Jarelli's sounds. Have a fantastic day and keep enjoying TennoCon 2021. Ciao!
Can we see it bring it a little? Oh, there you are. I wish I could do this sometimes. Just go out and record
Yes,
sounds.
indeed, all departments at Digital Extremes are working on the new war feverishly, and tonight at 10:00 Live, you'll be getting a first look at the start of the new war.
Hell yeah!
In the making for a very long time, and you know, with the 2020 COVID lockdown, we kind of took a break from working on it because we couldn't. We needed the mocap studio, but over time, we've gotten ourselves back in shape to get all things New War on track, and we are beyond excited to give you a first look, not only from the sound today, but later tonight during 10:00 Live, a first hands-on look at all things New War. But before we, wrap things up today, there's always something very special that comes with the quests of Warframe, and that's the music that takes us through them. And I think it's going to be hard to talk about this without, getting a little emotional, but when people first played The Second Dream, 6 years ago, we'll say, without too much of a reaction that it's been that long, the music stayed with them forever. And to this day, I still see people talking about your work, Keith. And now that you're here with us today in this sound panel interview, I would kick myself if I didn't ask you about working on the music for the new war. Is this something you've started?
Very much something I've started.
Interesting.
Isn't it, Jordan?
It is very much.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting, and George is ambitious is the right word for it, for sure. We're without giving anything away, it sort of feels to me like a reboot of the music almost. But we're also revisiting some of the themes that players will know from the past.
Did you read the whole quest before you started to try and figure out the anchors for feels, or were you just like, no, I know what's going to happen before you even got to page 2?
I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing.
You fit right in here.
We're still in early days, but it's I feel really good about how it's taking shape.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier too, the script is so huge that I felt bad to say to Keith here, read. I don't know, it's got to be like 300 pages, right?
Yeah, don't put a number on it, George. You're going to give everyone anxiety. But yeah, it is the longest quest we've ever done. So.
And so it's like, I've given him some videos of stuff and everything, and but yeah, like Keith was saying, a bit of a reboot. There's there's some new themes that are going to be in this quest musically, which are super exciting, stuff we've never done before. Interesting instrumentation, interesting feel for things to really, like you mentioned, Rebecca, people play the Second Dream. And I have it clear in my mind that people, me watching people on Twitch crying when they were playing some of those moments. And man, that sticks with you. Like 6 years ago, and I still remember people's faces. And we're always trying to go for that. We always want to make people feel attached to this game that they've put so much time and effort into, and they have so much dedication to, that we're constantly trying to make you guys feel an emotional connection with the characters in the game. And Keith has been doing a marvelous job at that. So yeah, it's going to be great.
And
Thank you.
I think we're lucky enough here on the sound panel to actually get a first listen to some New War music. So why don't we take a listen now?
Oh yeah.
So what you just
Interesting.
you actually see in context tonight during Tenno Live, but it's a very special part of any quest is, of course, the kickoff. So did you know what you were dealing with, Keith, when you were scoring that, or did you just have a sense of the tone you wanted things to start off with?
There's some video that George sent, so I do have some inspiration in front of me. I think they're unfinished images at this point, but when you see it, they will be probably very finished looking.
Yeah, and I think just to speak to that music a bit, I think again, as you guys, if you know the music of Warframe, again, this feels very different, right? This feels like something we haven't really done before in the game. It feels it's got an edge to it. It's got a moving in a different direction and kind of raises a lot of questions. And when you see the imagery too, there'll be a lot of questions that everyone will have, and I think the music kind of matches that perfectly. So yeah, I'm super excited for it too.
This really does feel like the true kickoff to the new war era for Warframe. This is something that, in reality, we've been working on for years, whether or not we were interrupted by a global pandemic notwithstanding. And I'm really excited that the community gets to see the scope and the details of everything coming for our next cinematic quest chapter. That's what we're going to be building toward as a team. After this point in TennoCon, everything you see and hear and remember will be about the new war, and those memories are only made possible thanks to people like George, Eric, Keith, and all the hard work they do. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, I mean, yeah, no, it's a team effort, right? And I mean, it's again one of those things where, even though the people you see on the streams, you see them all the time, there's 300-400 other people who are really making this happen. So yeah, it's a team effort all the way.
It's a real privilege to be working on something so exciting and has such great history at this point. Yeah, it's really an honor.
It is. And I think after reading the script myself, I'm going to sign up for acting lessons. So if anyone has a reference number or two, there's going to be some very tough moments in this many 100-page script. So we'll have to, work and support each other to get it to the finish line and then delight our players with truly the next chapter in Warframe.
Oh, you always sound great though, Rebecca. Like it's always, and we haven't done Lotus in a long time, right? Like how long is it? When was the last?
We did some one-off lines for Orphix Venom, but other than that, I think the last true lines were the Ropa Lolis in the
Yeah, wow.
Jovian Conqueror. That was
And
2019.
when-
And I guess there were some other pieces here and there, but it's definitely been a while. So
Yep. Well, it's all going to come back full circle.
it is. And this does mean that our sound panel is coming to an end. So as much as we'd like to stay forever, we do need to send you guys to a live panel up next. That's right, live in the studio, we will be bringing you a live developer Q&A with Megan, Pablo, Elise, and Eric. So make sure you get your questions ready and tune in to see what they have to say about all things Warframe. Thank you so much, everyone.
See ya.
Buy my merch while it's hot. I'm desperate to sell all this stuff today. For no particular reason. Don't you know there's a sale going on? And that it's incredible?
Hi Tenno, this is a friendly reminder to make sure your Twitch account is linked to your Warframe account so you can receive Twitch drops while watching TennoCon 2021. To link your Twitch account to your Warframe account, go to warframe.com/user and click the sync link to link. Just make sure you're logged into the Warframe account that you want to receive the drops on. This year, for watching throughout the day, you can get a Grineer Gunblade weapon.
Nice.
During Tenno Live, watch for a free Loki Prime.
Ooh.
Enjoy TennoCon 2021.
At 5. New boy. Almost at nice.
Alright, Tenno, I'm really looking forward to showing you this next clan's landscapes. We are now entering the dojo of PlayStation Clan Blood of the Shadow Dragons. We have arrived at Lake Tranquil, an ideal vacation spot for Tenno everywhere. Complete with
Holy
all
shit,
the
how do people do these things?
and hot tub. Excalibur's never going to want to leave. Let's see what awaits us for our vacation stay. Oh, of course, you got to have a seat with a view. Fully stocked kitchen. Fireplace with their trophy from winning the contest. Upstairs, very cozy sleeping accommodations with a fine television screen. Oh man, this is made for Tenno for sure. And out here, you have to have some fun on the water. Did you come all the way from Fortuna for a little vacation stay? Love it. Oh,
Ow.
you're doing a great job out there.
How do people do this?
Okay. While we appreciate the incredible detail that went into creating this structure, I'll read for you what Scary Shadows, the clan's lead architect, had to say. I spend most of my time in the dojo with a bit of music, and building rooms from scratch seems like a very relaxing pastime after work and a couple of Warframe missions. My clan is a small bunch of friends and people that reached out during the times I've been featured, which I enjoyed a lot. I'd greet people on the dojo chat and take people on tours and chat for hours. My designs are mainly freestyle. I just start building and see what comes. Love work and style most, but appreciate all factions. Well, those freestyle from scratch landscapes are amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your dojo with us, Blood of the Shadow Dragons. Up next, we have a Spanish Xbox clan called Spectrum. Are any of you fans of the kaiju genre? Isn't this incredible? I want to get a closer look, but I also don't want them to actually attack me. I'm sure they won't. They're decorations, right? I'm just convinced. Look at them. All the work that would have had to go into creating this structure from scratch, just starting with the skybox. It is too cool. And one more room. I think any Ghibli fans might recognize something in the background there. We can get a nice vantage point while I read for you what this clan's lead architect had to say.
I never watched that.
This is a small contribution to the great community of this game. Recent times have been difficult, but we have spent a pleasant time meeting very good people and having fun. Together, we can carry the weight of the world. Big greetings from Chile. Spectrum, we really appreciate the tour of your clan's hard work. Gracias por compartir tu dojo con nosotros, TennoSpectrum. I'll see all of you with more tours after this panel.
Hi,
it's Megan again, and I'm back with another friendly reminder to relink your Twitch account to your Warframe account if you have not done so since the launch of Twitch Drops 2.0 back in February 2021. This is very important for receiving drops as well as giving drops as a streamer. A relink must happen if you have not already done so. Go to warframe.com/user and choose to unlink your account and then relink it. It's simple. Hope you're enjoying the show.
I got deals. Come to my sale, come to my sale. Gotta dump this merch or I go to jail. Just kidding, friend. But seriously, I need to sell this stuff quick.
Warrior's world is one of fire. We long to remember the faces of those we love. But those faces have now changed. Prepare yourself. The day you had hoped would never come is nigh.
That's cool. Let's see if Warframe would want bring us over to.
I'm all set. How do I look?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Developer Q&A. And yes, this segment is live. It's happening right now in real time, which does mean that we can see your Twitch comments as they fly by. A lot of them are about our current server situation. We are aware. We are actively working on it on all platforms. So don't worry. We'll take care of everyone. You'll get your Vastalok drop. You'll get your Loki Prime later on. Don't worry. We're working on it, and we will update you when we have more information. So just hang out with us. We're here. We're live. We're sweating under these lights. Pablo is looking beautiful in his 4K camera from home. So we're going to get into our dev Q&A. I am your host, Megan Everett, for today, Senior Community Manager. And joining me today, I have 3 incredible developers working on Warframe. So before we get into your submitted questions, we're going to go into some introductions. I'm going to start with Elise.
Hi. I'm a senior animator on Warframe.
Very good. El Pablo.
Hello, I'm Pablo. I'm one of the game designers here at Warframe. And you might know me from the nullifiers, you know? My achievement. My crowning achievement.
Eric.
Hello. I'm looking for the camera. It's right there.
Right in the
Eric Vetter, lead concept artist at Digital Extremes.
Beautiful. All right. We have a lot of submitted questions to go through. There are over 400 submitted questions from you, creators, players, everyone out there. We had to, parse through them and pick out some that we could ask our lovely crew here. So we are going to get straight into it. And our first question is for Eric Vetter, and this comes to us from Dem Thighs, though, on PC.
That name is great.
The name is great. And they would like to know, where do you get inspiration when designing a Warframe? What is the process like?
Well, are we going to show images or not yet?
Dean's got it on standby.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I'm using images to help here. So So I haven't designed necessarily a Warframe, but I definitely have done like some deluxe skins. And so this is one of the first ones I did, or second one actually, second one, yeah. And this was deluxe. And so trying to find inspiration, we based the name off of the French military engineer. I'm going to brutalize this name, Sébastien Le Prestre de Vauban.
Oh, nailed it.
So anyway, so we took that engineering idea, and I was like, I want to do like an old knight armor, like a Final Fantasy style, which I love Final Fantasy, and with like locomotive engines, and as you can see here, we started the process and pulling from like all the reference of the helmets and the armor and stuff, and then from the engine, you can see the chest area there. I wanted to have some kind of like pumping and yeah, maybe steam coming out like a steam engine. So, and I think Dean is the next image. So as this went on, we start to refine. In the previous image, there was notes up top, so I took that and then I applied to this one here, and start refining some of the images. And this starts to get. If you're wondering where I'm pointing at the image. It's not like. Anyway, so I started refining this drawing based off of what Raymond and Jeff had said, and fine-tuning it some more. And then I think we go to the boom, final, just like that, done. No, it took a little while to finalize it, colors, and then a little bit of the back view there. And yeah, I was really happy how it turned out. And it was modeled by Greg Tjen, I believe. And
our flute master.
Yeah, and he did a great job. And we went back and forth on some of those little details, and I think it looks great. And after that, usually we package it with like weapons or accessories. So I was like, oh, I want to do an axe, a big, heavy axe that animates and kind of pulls from a lot of the same aesthetic and from the armor itself, so I wanted to have it spin. Now, I think it works like this in game, but anyway, it was really fun to work on this. So, and then the final thing was a dangle for the weapon, and again, I just pulled from all the final art, and our camera is covering the final image, and that's cool. But that's what it looks like. So
it was literally train inspired.
Yeah, basically, and like I said, the Knights, Final Fantasy, stuff like that. So love that
Reb
stuff.
would know that game very well. All right, we're going to move on to another question, and this is for Pablo. This question comes to us from Thunder Jimmy on PC. They said, I love the amazing Warframe designs that Dehi has submitted for this game, including my #1 Excalibur Prime, Time-Bending Protea, and now Magical Girl Yoreli. What is the process like to create a Warframe? Pablo, over to you.
Very interesting. It actually changes quite a bit. It's not always the same thing. For example, the very first frame that I made that I was like my full design was Nidus. And then
Sorry about that.
the very first document I wrote, because I generally like put like a quick blurb of what my ideas are in the Word document, and then I leave it, and then I come back to it like a few days later, and I just like, you know what, I don't like this anymore, or I want to tweak this. And I kind of go back and forth for a while to changing them. But that one, for example, I started from the mechanics. I really wanted the idea of pull things in and then hit them. That was a mechanic I wanted to hit. And I didn't really have a theme at the beginning. So I remember my first document was called Energy Frame. So as generic as you could get. And then eventually it started to evolve, and I started to think about it, and it made a lot of sense with the infestation and stuff. So that one, for example, started from a mechanic. But sometimes we have some amazing, like a repository with a whole bunch of different concepts for potential Warframes, just like the look without knowing exactly what they would be. And I remember Haro was there, and I saw him, and I saw the little, the Thurible. I was like, wow, that's so cool. How can I use a Thurible? And that was more like the art inspiring me to to then kind of come up with an idea of a kit to do it. So generally is those the three, like I would say the trifecta of how to start is I have an idea for a mechanic that I want to use, or I got a art that I want, or I have a theme. I'll have like just an idea of like a theme for a Warframe that I want to make, and then one of those three will kind of get me started, and then kind of my job is connecting to the other 2 points. It's kind of making that little, I guess, like a pyramid of the triangle of design.
Hey, triangle is the strongest shape, and as you can see, we're all about triangles. Dean knows a triangle very well, and so does our design process. So thank you, Pablo. Our next question is actually for everyone. This comes to us from Soda Papinski on PlayStation, and they've asked, what idea or concept for a Warframe did you reject at some point and why? So obviously we have, we've got game design, animation, art here. So we're gonna start with Eric and your take on this question.
So yes, the only thing I can really talk about when it comes to this for Warframe again is the deluxe skin I worked on, specifically Equinox. And I had some wild ideas that Ray and Jeff had to like kind of rein me in, because it's, so I started with these like, the idea was like a devil ninja for the night version and then an angel samurai for the day version. So I started kind of with this like wild ninja designs, and I was loving this. I think it's all cool stuff. But as we moved on to the next one, which is the samurai, like these are two models they got to build and then they get combined. So it was quite a lot of ideas, which I like to start with, just wild stuff. And I love samurais and ninjas. I play those in Final Fantasy, so.
Oh my God.
Yeah, anyway, so so as you can see here, it went through a lot of different changes and ideas.
Gosh.
I was like, oh, okay, I tried like 3 different helmets on each of these different designs, and the bottom left started to kind of scale it back a little bit so you can actually build it and make sense of it. And the next image, I was like trying to throw like all kinds of different materials in and all these things, and that's just not possible. So
it's very complex what's happening here.
I was dreaming big, and Jeff and Ray were probably like, what's this guy's deal? But anyway, I was really excited about working on it, so I went through a ton of different ideas here and kind of ended up on this here. And then there's an appropriate weapons that came with it, the day and the night side. So yeah, and then the final one's in game. I didn't post the actual image, but yeah, so that's kind of one of the. I had a lot of rejections on that image, so on this idea, but it's a lot of fun
better.
too. So.
Like,
yeah,
imagine if you only had one idea, and you're like, I don't have any other ones. It's
You're
just
fired.
this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
All right, we'll go to Pablo on that question in terms of concept for Warframe and the rejection aspect of it.
So basically, like how we kind of decide like the Warframes we want to do is essentially that whoever's going to sort of lead the Warframe decides what they want to do, and there's not a lot of roadblocks along the way. But I do have like, so I have like a little folder with, I don't know, 10, 12 different Warframe designs that I made through the years. I'm just kind of sitting there. Some is not they're rejected, but some I'm sort of postponing. Maybe I'll make them someday. Maybe I won't. It's kind of hard to tell. And so, in case I make them, I don't want to tell you what they are. There is one that I can tell you because I'm like 99.75% sure I'll never make it. I have one for based on the Fates. I think they're called the Moirai or something like that. I'm probably mispronouncing it, but they're like a Greek myth of the Fates that tread like the thread of life. So there's like 3 sisters. One of them treads the thread, the other measures the thread, and the last one cuts the thread. And the idea was that it would be like you would play as all 3 of them, and you could switch which one you control. They would have like different sort of attributes, and then basically the other 2 would become AI. But I don't think I'll ever make it because now, when I wrote that was so long ago. Now that it's so hard to really have like cohesion with AI at the speed and the speed that we move, that it just doesn't. I just don't think the way I want it to feel, because if they're the 3 sisters and they're like supposed to be sort of intertwined, I kind of would like them to feel like cohesive unit, which is kind of impossible when you're just flying all over the place. So that one I definitely won't do. So there you go. That's a dead Warframe that shall never exist.
Oh. But what you're saying is you have enough ideas for like a year of Pablo Warframes, is what you're saying.
So I have all of those, and then I have a document that's just like little, like almost like Twitter snippets of like, oh, this is kind of cool, and they're just whatever ideas, and it's just pages and pages of random thoughts. So there's always something.
2022, year of the Pablo Warframes. I'm into it.
Pablo frame.
I can't read that. Sorry? Oh, another reminder, hot off the press from Miss Rebecca Ford. We are continuing to work on the servers. Obviously, this is a live segment, meaning we can see chat. It's flying by about our servers. We are still actively working on it. Obviously, we appreciate everyone being excited. They want to log in. They want to get their drops. We'll have it all taken care of. We are still working on the servers. Hang tight, hang out. Let's continue our live developer Q&A. We're actually going to go to a video question for Miss Elise, and this is from Jamie Voiceover. So let's play that.
Hi, I'm Jamie Voiceover, and my question is for Elise. So on your Twitter feed, you've posted different works in progress and different references for your animations. I would like to know, how do you make or find these references, and how do you actually end up applying them to the final product? Thanks.
Well, that is actually a brilliant question, because a lot of people think that getting in the industry as an animator is a lot about being a good animator, which obviously that helps. But when you're in games, I find that a lot of it is also coming up with really good ideas, and it's taken a while to kind of find the best way to not only create good animations, but create things that are different and unique and interesting, and finding ways to pull those in. So I am terrible at drawing, so I play to my strengths, which is generally I'll kind of start with like a brainstorm. I'll look through the documentation or ask Jeff what the kind of core of the character is about, and then I'll use that to think of things adjacent to that I could actually pull from as kind of motion reference. So for example, with Harlequin, with the deluxe for Mirage, we're calling her Harlequin, it was like, okay, what kind of sources could I look at? I could do like juggling, performance, magic, ballet, anything. I wanted it to be kind of like sophisticated but entertainer based. And then so when I kind of have that, I can kind of start looking at different YouTube videos of people doing those activities, and either I will find something I really like of someone professional doing something I couldn't do. Like, fortunately guys, I have to spoil it, the magic trick. I don't know how to do magic tricks, that's pulled. One of my skills is, I can find some reference of someone else doing something really cool, and I can use that to make something look really cool. So one of my options is to find someone else doing something cool and use that to make something cool. Or another thing I'll do is just find a bunch of cool poses and reference images, and then I'll just stick a camera on and run through a bunch of different things, returning to pose each time. And usually if I just keep going through certain things, some magic will happen, and it's being a good animator is building on that skill building, that idea building process of being able to move your body enough times that you find some magic in there somewhere and identifying it. So for Harlequin, I think most of it was found.
So, I'm back. I'm going to class.
Asking what would Pop-Tarts do is how you get from Toast and Jam to That's My Jam.
Oh,
from Sunday
that's fine.
to Sunday. So, like, what would Pop-Tarts do here? Yeah, that feels right.
No ad for you.
Throwing a camera at myself with some very clear idea in mind of what I'm trying to aim for, and something will come up.
Magic.
With cinematics, it's a little bit different because I'm not kind of trying to hit so many like specific poses and attitudes. It's more about figuring out who they are as a person and their character and what their emotional state is, and then
I'm kind of get
emotional state and run through the
in
beats.
trouble and easy.
Me in front of a camera going through those beats, and then I play it back and I go through and I delete the worst ones until I'm left with the best one. And if that has some magic in it that makes me excited to work on it, then that's when I press ahead.
Oh, I love that. Speaking of creative processes, our next question for everyone is from Yayuri on PC, and they've asked, what is the creative process from draft to final when creating a story quest for Warframe? What are you looking for when creating a new quest? So from the angle of a new quest, we're going to go to Eric first.
So, yeah, we're not too involved in some of the story quests as far as like the story design and stuff, but like I think for when we get new ideas and new quest ideas coming in, like say the last year the Deimos stuff was awesome, and I think what we usually do, like our process is kind of like we get all the information we can out of these guys, and then we start collecting reference and piling that together, and then start creating like some high-level paintings to put under their noses and see if this is going to follow along with what they're saying. So that's kind of where we start, and then it just grows from there. And it can change. It can completely be discarded. So, but yeah, that's as much as far as I get in, as far as getting involved with that stuff. But so yeah.
And Elise, you kind of mentioned mocap in terms of quests.
Right, so with the quests, generally Jeff will give me a scene that's got some like basic idols or mocap already in it, and then he's put it in the scene with a rough camera, so I vaguely know kind of what he's aiming for, and then usually he'll talk me through, okay, he's happy here, and then he's surprised, and then he's going to do this, and then this moment you need to really sell, and then I'll kind of go cool, and I will go away and get in the emotions and acting and you know, go to my Zen place and film a bunch of takes, and then do the first block out, and then Jeff will kind of guide me towards meeting my animation and his direction, and then yeah, it just kind of gets edited towards what the goal is.
Final product.
Yeah.
Yeah, same with our artwork. It goes through Jeff and
The taste master, Jeff.
The process is a lot about someone having a clear vision, and then everyone else just kind of editing until we find something that works for everyone.
And in terms of game design, Mr. Pablo, do you have any creative processes from?
I don't get involved a lot with quests. I mean, so every now and then I'll have conversations with like Steve when we're starting to like choose where it's gonna go, and he's trying to find like the true line of the quest, like what is it that the quest is sort of about, and then he'll generally ask me like about ideas of how do we make this without actually having to make like a whole new system and stuff like that, and then we end up making one like Urali where it did require a whole new system and a whole bunch of things, but that's kind of that's kind of our style and our ambition, that we just it's hard to resist the pull of keeping adding things. So yeah, my involvement is literally just on those is more like every now and then I'll chirp in a few ideas, I'll give some comments, and that's as far as I get on Quest. Fortunately, we have some very, very talented people to handle those, and they're amazing.
They are. And we have a little similar question. This one is for Eric specifically. This is from Kuragi_Kureda on PlayStation. And they've asked, approximately how many drafts does it take before finally getting something that you're satisfied with?
Well, you saw my Equinox adventure, so that took quite a long time. It really depends on if you get that first kind of idea figured out, like roughed in, and they're kind of happy with it. It's funny, like it can. The Equinox is a great example of like I was over here and they were over here going no, come over here. So but other times you start right there with them, and it goes much quicker. So there is no actual like time that you can lock it down in, but yeah, it's all fun. I still love it.
So whatever Jeff's attitude
yeah, whatever
is that
Jeff
day.
feels like, maybe he didn't work out as much, or his protein shakes haven't kicked in or something. So
the worst days.
Catch him in the morning.
Yeah.
Not a morning person.
After his
that
oatmeal,
Jeff.
It's nicer to talk to.
His protein oatmeal.
I'm gonna go say
Art is never finished, but only abandoned, and I think it's very, very true for this. Like it's the sort of thing that I think if we're making anything, any system, any Warframe, any whatever, if we had 3 more months to make it, we just eat those 3 more months iterating and trying to make it better. So that's just kind of the nature of trying to make something cool.
Yeah.
An infinite number of drafts.
It never ends.
Elise, I'd love to open this question up to you if you have any draft take on animations.
Usually it goes fairly smoothly. Usually Jeff's very direct about what he wants, and then that usually usually we're not too far off. All animators seem to generally be on the same pace. And it really helps as well that Jeff's obviously an animator. And so we all kind of speak the same language, which is just nuts. It's like, oh, it's got to go bang and then flex and then woo, and you're like, oh yeah, I got it, 100%. I'll go get that started right now. We get weekly reviews where we kind of show what we're working on, and he can kind of guide us along the way. So generally, it doesn't happen that anyone's too far off the mark, and if it is, it's usually not a huge crazy fix. So we're pretty lucky in that way.
Always going back to that Jeff guy. All right, we're going to go to our next question. This is a question for everyone. This is from Hoover on PC, and they want to know what keeps you going through creative blocks or burnouts. We'll start with Eric.
Beer. No.
But yes.
A little
but
bit.
No.
Or a lot of bit. This happens quite often, I think, to everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think for me, I just try to rethink the approach and try to think of something completely different to jog the ideas loose, kind of thing. Or I'll take downtime, walk away, or play other games. So I won't say the other game I like to play. So,
I think I know.
But yeah, that's kind of how I get through it. Or get a lot of reference, look at, old magazines of like fantasy art, sci-fi art and stuff.
Nerd.
So yeah, total nerd stuff.
Total nerd.
Watch some animes.
Ooh.
So,
Ooh, anime.
yeah. So that's it, and then you solve it. It's done.
Just
you
like
you
that.
get right out of it. Yeah, no problem.
Amazing.
It's not
All right,
true.
we'll go to Elise for creative blocks.
So early on in my career, I figured whenever I was struggling for inspiration or I couldn't get something done, I just had to kind of work through it and push. And then eventually it would get to the point I would just feel awful and get sick and have to take days off and just like fall over completely. And I was like, okay, this strategy is not
Maybe not.
working. And then over time I've realized that I see it more like a well with like one side that fills up and one side that goes out. And if I open the dam too much and all the water pours out, I'm like, oh God, I've got no water left. And I don't really have like a fast track to filling it back up except for to just pull back, try not to think about stuff after work, try not work late, try not to work weekends, and just try and like chill out basically and have some fun
Recharge.
in life and recharge. I think that I used to try and find there's the one solution. I'm gonna eat healthier, I'm gonna go on a run, I'm gonna do all this stuff, but like really you can't rush. When you're burnt out, you're just in this fog. And it feels terrible, and I've realized that I do much better trying not to open the floodgates and then trying to pour things back in as quickly as possible, and to just try and be like, oh, I'm starting to not feel good. I need to pull back before it gets to the burnout point. And obviously that's not always something you can do if there's a big deadline, and I 100% get it, and I think everyone who's in a creative space goes through this at some point, and even probably not creative spaces, you just hit a wall.
Yeah.
And I haven't found a solution to that wall except for to just be like, oh God, there's the wall. I'll stop running right at it. And then at least when the wall hits, maybe it's small enough I can jump over it, and it's like, instead of like a
face plant.
Yeah.
Mr. Pablo, creative blocks and burnouts.
So for me, it's a little different just because I have a lot of work, a lot of jobs. And so, if I'm blocked on a Warframe, I just leave it and move on to working on some system stuff. If that's blocked, then I can go and do some UI stuff or do some management stuff. There's literally I just can kind of jump around until I'm like, okay, well, things kind of get done. Also, my brain is pretty good at boomeranging. If I'm stuck in something, I'll go and do something else, and all of a sudden my brain will be like, hey, I got that solution you needed earlier. And I go, cool. And that's kind of how it works for me. So
To each their own. We love it. All right, we're going to go into a fun and classic question. This is from Dirac Hasaki on Nintendo Switch. The classic question of what is your favorite Warframe? I'm going to start with Pablo.
Hello, Gregor.
Answering one of the Warframe side design, because just that's kind of
How are you?
So I go right in the middle. I choose Nesha because I reworked Nesha, but it was already made before me, so Nesha is my choice.
Love it. Elise. I know what you're gonna say, so just say it.
It's Wiz. Seems very selfish, but I actually kind of like the damage and support role, so I love all that. And so it is a bit big-headed, but I love playing Wisp. But I also do play Frost Prime a lot.
Oh, a classic.
Yeah.
Nice.
Bubble thing, because I'm terrible at most Warframe things, so I'm like, hey, I got a bubble.
Yeah.
Same.
Don't yell at me.
I'm horrible.
Eric better.
Garuda.
Oh, Blood
I
Girl.
love the blood stuff. So,
Great choices all around. Great.
Yeah.
We'll make a good team.
Speaking of
Yeah.
like finding like that, the one move where you're just siphoning all the blood to stay alive. I'm like, yeah, I need that. 'cause
Yeah.
I'm not good at the game.
Yeah. It's like,
Same.
All these enemies and just being like, look at all this blood. It's
yeah. You're playing against people
Pretty
with like
awesome.
2,000 hours or more, and you're like, ha ha ha, I don't have time for that. Bubble.
I
do the bubble thing.
Plus, it's just so cool. It's one of my favorite Prex cards that I did.
Oh, Miss
too,
O
so-
flexing your Prex card art. Very good.
But
Smart.
I love that character. So
Very good. All right, we're going to move on to a video question for Pablo. This comes to us from Lifewater. So let's play the video.
Hello everyone, Lifewater here. My question is for Pablo and the dev team. There have been a lot of great reworks in the past, notable ones being ones such as Zephyr, Ember, Vauban, and Nezha. Is there a plan to continue to rework some of the older frames who have become a bit outdated and outclassed by the newer ones?
Okay, well, first of all, I take offense that Wukong wasn't mentioned, but I'll let it go. We don't currently have any plans for reworks. Reworks are kind of, reworks are kind of like a complicated thing sometimes. So, for example, you mentioned Nesha. If I remember when I did that one, I checked like the usage of Nesha like a month before the thing, and then like 3 months after the thing, and it changed, but it was like, So if I go right now and I do a rework on, let's say, Ash, for example, honestly, it's unlikely the usage is going to change a lot unless in the process of reworking him, I break him and make him like godlike, which obviously not something that I want to do. So generally, you gotta like the way I think about it is like when you're doing something, you're also not doing something else. So that's kind of the balance that we have to think. So even though I do think going back and touching some of those older Warframes would make the game better, at the same time, that means that if we're working on that, we're not working on new stuff. So it's a hard balance there. Sometimes I do feel like it's important, like we did with Zephyr, for example. We'll see in the future, but at this time we have no current plans for any other ones.
All right, you heard it first from Pablo at home. All right, we're moving on to a question for Elise. This comes to us from Red Gamer Tiger 4 on Xbox. And they'd like to know, what is your favorite animation to make for Warframe, and why is it your favorite to create? Elise.
So, it's not out yet.
Hello. Yeah.
But I have got an update on my newest favorite animation, but it's not. It's coming up later today, so I can't ruin anything. But unfortunately, I'm going to sound like a broken record because the thing is with getting a Warframe that floats is you just have like endless possibilities.
Oh God, yeah.
So my favorite one was this one for Wisp, where she gets to duplicate herself and fly around herself.
And it looks so good on every single Warframe.
Yeah, it does.
You cannot go wrong with this one. I love it.
I remember like pitching this, and everyone was like, "How are we gonna get this to work?" And I was like, "I don't know. I made it look cool."
Yeah.
Figured out.
You figured out. I made
and
it.
they did, and it looks amazing. So that was my favorite. Was the question why was it?
And why is
cool?
it your favorite?
Why is it my favorite? I think I've said before, like I love working on anything that's very elegant and flowy. And she's got no feet, so I like it, so I can make her fly and do all kinds of crazy stuff. So the whole set for her was just a joy to work on because there was no holds barred, and also I didn't have to worry about it conflicting with anything else because the only one I had to worry about was Titania, and I knew I wanted to do something very different. So I just got to have a lot of fun with it. It all just came very easily to me because there's a lot of me in those animations, and it was just fun and easy,
and it's so good. Like I cannot preach enough how amazing that animation is. We're going to move on to a video question for Elise again, and this comes to us from Kirahim, and let's play the video.
Hi, I'm Kirarahime, and I was wondering what the design process was like for a Warframe such as Wisp, and if you would ever do a making of series where we could see the concept art all the way to the final product.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, up for whatever you guys want me to do.
What do you want? What do you want?
What was the design process like? What was
Design
the-
process for Wisp.
Right. I think I've kind of said this already, but so when I got the concept for Wisp, I knew I didn't want to do Titania because we already had her as the floating babe. So my kind of keywords I drew from her concept art were elegant, cheeky, and like ethereal. I kind of wanted it to, flow and be kind of mysterious. I looked at smoke and how it moved, and it sounds silly that you can draw inspiration from anywhere, but I thought smoke moved in this really cool way, and I thought if I could somehow emulate that kind of ethereal nature, that would be really cool, and also have it be a little bit like cheeky and cute.
Mhm.
And that's kind of where I built that from, and the rest was mostly just thinking of interesting things to do and trying poses out and then building off of that. And I just kind of threw a lot of things at the wall and chose the best ones. Yeah.
The design process.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go to a question for Mr. Eric Vetter. This is from Mia Mooley on PC, and they are asking, I wonder what elements DE was inspired by when designing the Sentient.
Good
I can only
question.
really speak to the environment side of things, and the Sentient have gone through a ton of iteration.
I thought you were going to say a tough time, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, like I think everyone on the team has touched it throughout the years. So I think I got some art there that so this is kind of the first stuff that I was playing with.
Ooh.
And I was kind of like, when talking about elements, I was thinking about like some kind of claustrophobic environment, like what it'd be like to be inside of a body, like running through the organs and stuff, and like all the other areas would be dark off into no man's land, because that's kind of scary and creepy. So you feel the pressure of the claustrophobia and then the darkness in the corners and stuff. So I played with a few, and even like one of them I've turned on its side there, and so this is some of the more different explorations, but a lot of similar feels. Tried to pull some of the elements from the actual sentient characters and include it into the background. Again, just playing ideas to get their attention. So this final one is more of where it is currently, and a lot of this was handled mostly by like Marco, Mike, Craig, and Rosa. They from the concept side of things, they really took it and shaped it to this look, and I just kind of pulled from what they were doing to explore this final image. So I really, really think the sentient stuff we ended up with is amazing. So I'm really stoked where it got to. But man, it went through a lot of revisions. So.
And
Yeah.
we'll see more about said sentience later on in the day. We're going to move on to a question for everyone. This is from Hooded Link 55 on PC. They've asked, what is your motivation behind making unique characters like the Entrati? We're going to start with Elise from a more animation perspective.
So I have to give credit where credit is due to Daryl Key, who did the vast majority of the Entrati family. I just did the father and like one animation for the mother, which I had to revise because it didn't look great because it was a yawn, and I yawn like this.
Oh, the yawn! Yeah.
Oh my god! Yeah, so I didn't realize that I'd been yawning wrong my whole. Everyone's like, no one yawns like that, and I was like, oh god, I yawn like that.
But
I should yawn like this next time. So yeah, they're like, where did they find this reference? I was like, that was me yawning. Oh god. But my inspiration for the dad. I mean, they usually. We have a brief of what the core values of the each character has, and then I just build a picture in my head of what they're gonna sit and stand like and how I can connote that, and I just kind of try and get in the body of what I usually try and pick like maybe 3 keywords of something I'm trying to connect with, and it's been a really long time, so I'm not sure what it was for the father, but I think it was about him being he's not really the head of the family anymore, so he kind of feels like he needs to fill up a bit more space and look a bit more important than he actually is. So I had this very like, I'm really great, but he's not really that great kind of thing, and he's kind of falling apart, and he's a bit achy.
Oh,
and
that animation, it
that
gets
one.
me every time.
That was really fun because he's got this like really mangled shoulder, so I got to really get in there. And yeah, and then it was kind of you just get in that headspace and have these kind of key things that you're aiming for, and run the camera, do a bunch of stuff for a couple minutes or longer, and then usually magic hits, and you just go, I can do something with that, and then I drag that in and figure it out.
Love it.
Cool.
We'll go to game design.
Watching the TennoCon.
The question was more like what inspired us to make us like different characters like that, and I think the drive in general is just to try and make something that kind of feels unique and stands on its own, and then when you see it, you're like, wow, that's really cool. Like, you know, like the Fortuna people, like all the Solaris or the band kits or stuff, that kind of gives you that the sense of a culture, the sense of an economy. Like there's like a sort of like a living arrangement that's a world going on even without the player. Even if you think of something like the Mycona from certain quests, I probably shouldn't start spoiling quests at random, but you know, even they have like their own culture and stuff like that, and it's kind of similar to like if you think about like a series like Star Trek or something like that, where they would just land on a random planet and they would kind of discover this different culture and stuff like that, and these different types of people and how they work. I think it's kind of it's more interesting if the aliens do feel alien, but also have some sort of thing that you can relate to, like, you know, in the case of the family, you know, family grievances. We all know family grievances, even if we don't live in an infested flower. So I think that's kind of the drive that we have to make those sorts of stories.
Amazing. And I know Entrati wasn't your realm.
No.
You said no, thank you.
No, I said so. No, I wasn't involved in any of that. So just the environment stuff.
Just the environment. So, working on other things.
Other things.
All right, we're going to go to a Pablo question. This is from Ira Ryu. And they've asked, what was the inspiration behind making the game based on tile sets? So we are going back, way back to...
Good question.
Pablo, what do you got?
Back in the day. Yeah, there's I mean, I don't know that this gets addressed directly, but there's a documentary by No Clip about the creation of Warframe, and you'll see on some of the discussions that are done during that part, essentially everyone was telling us what you're trying to do will never work. It's impossible. You're never going to be able to keep up because it's just the quality of the content that you're trying to make cannot be made at a pace that will be enough to satisfy customers basically in a free-to-play game. Basically, everyone was saying like it cannot be done. So the big impulse behind something like Thousands was exactly that, right? Trying to make it so that by having the Thousands, which are like manually crafted and they're like made by artists, but then they connect in different ways, that gives you enough variety so it doesn't get stale. So it kind of like it reuses the same content and it just makes it a little bigger, so that whenever you make some tiles, it all sort of kind of grows and it doesn't get as hard to maintain. Because obviously we were looking a lot at like, okay, everyone says we're never going to be able to make all this content, so how can we make it a little easier on us? So that's the drive for where that started.
We went from one tile set to 3 open zones now, so you could say we've grown a little bit in our 8 years. Our next question is for everyone, but I'm actually going to point it at Elise. This is from Good Guy 68, and they're asking, what is the main inspiration behind the Sisters Hounds in-game, real world, etc.?
So this is a cool story. So I saw that I had to do some dog animations, and we have a couple different modules. So I had to make some different personality animations for each of them. And I, did my thing, was like, okay, I'll go look for some dog reference, and couldn't really find anything that I was looking for as distinct. And I thought, well, we have like a pets channel at work. I wonder if anyone just has got a bunch of recordings of their pets doing cool stuff that they could share with me, and then I could get our animals in the game. And of course I was flooded with tons and tons of videos, which was brilliant. And so I think the main ones I used were,
oh my god, that's so cute.
French Bulldog Piker had some really great ones, and Fernanda and Cassandra. Those were the main ones I used. It's quite hard to know what you need as an animator from someone else's perspective. It's like, okay, it needs to go back to idle, not move too much or not move too little, but be something unique, but it's not got eyes or nose or teeth or, you know, so you're looking for something very specific. So a lot of them didn't work, unfortunately, but quite a few of them made it in the game. And I think it's really cool whenever possible to get, you know, our team and our stuff in the game and be like, hey, that's a part of us. So most of the animations on the module set are from D staff pets, which is really cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's so cute. I was going to send you a video of my dog, but all he did at that point was chew things, so I figured that wasn't very helpful, so
yeah,
didn't give you a video, but love that. All right, we're going to go to a question for Pablo. This is from Bloob Bunny on PC. And they have said, this is the first time I ever saw the Dog Days event, and my first thought was, do they have pool noodles as weapons? Do you think you might make pool noodle melee skins in the future? Pablo, you had a hot fire answer for this. I need to know.
So initially I didn't really have a thought on this because I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. But then for some reason I started thinking, it'd be kind of cool if you could have like a pool noodle and then the enemies toss at you like water balloons, and if you timed it right, you could bounce them back at them. I thought it would be like not the same game, but like a separate like mode of the game where you could do that alternate sort of gameplay. I don't know. I like the idea of the water balloon with a pool noodle. I don't know if it would work. Sounds fun.
I'm already like trying to imagine what the actual sound of that would be like a foam pool noodle hitting a water balloon. I like it.
I think it's cool.
Speaking of you thinking it's cool, what do you think?
Well, I think it would be awesome, and I don't see why we can't have themed pool noodles like Grenier and Infested. It'd be dope.
How would you animate a pool noodle?
I don't think we would animate it. I think that the tech team's going to kill me here, but I think that the smartest way to do it would probably be to reuse existing two-handed idols and make it a weapon that has some physics to it, so you could whack something and it go I think that would probably be the best way of doing
it.
Do it!
Send Jeff a message after this, because everyone here has confirmed that pool noodles, no one will be harmed except for Jeff's taste. All right, we're going to move into a more technical question for Elise. This is from Dynamex4 on PC. Their question is, with traditional animation, cartoons, anime, 3D animation, etc., people usually animate per frame. How does that translate in a video game where I'm able to play at 30 FPS or 144 FPS at the push of a button?
Okay, so here I go making a fool of myself. I'm not a very technical person, but I should be able to explain this. So we animate in 30 frames a second and then export it at 30 frames a second. So my understanding is that we are presenting 30 frames, like a snapshot of a pose on each frame for each second 30 times and giving that to the computer. If you then play it at 144 frames per second, the computer interpolates smoother between each point of data. So it looks like it's going smoother, but it's really the same data. So we usually use 30 for gameplay, which works great for gameplay reasons because we can't go too high with data, otherwise you're going to have performance issues. But with cinematics, I generally think we do 60, just because you have more data points, so it helps obviously smooth things out. But the smoothing factor is done by the computer, not by data, which makes it look like it's smoother, but it's the computer is taking on more of the workload, so it's less expensive.
And you said you weren't a technical person.
Well, I hope I got that right, because if not, I think I get revoked in the animation community. Someone's going to be like, actually, that's not how it works at all. It
works. That's how it works for us.
That's how it sounds like it works.
It sounds that way.
So we'll go with that until someone tells me otherwise.
All right, our next question is for Pablo. This is a question from Shidnivicus on PlayStation. A lot of devs say doors can be the trickiest thing to design and program. Is that the case for Warframe? If not, what is your game's version of a door?
Interesting.
We did have, for example, doors. Obviously, doors work pretty well in Warframe, but we did have a problem with, well, not a problem. It was the way they were set up. For clients, sometimes you would be like running really fast, and if you had lag, you would just slap your face against the door. And we changed that just like maybe like 2 years ago, something like that. I think is when we changed them to be authoritative on the client side, so that if the client got close, it opened even if they had a lot of lag to the server. So there are issues like that, but we've improved them over the years. If I had to think of one that's like the vein of our existence, and I almost feel bad saying this one because it's so fresh. But finishers have been finishers are the doors of Warframe. No, that doesn't make sense. Finishers have been pretty rough. Like it's very easy to get into issues. Even like I remember back when Ash originally came. Was this Ash? Yeah, I think Ash had this problem at the very beginning where you would teleport to an enemy to do the finisher, and then you would be like a little below the ground, so you would start falling to the world. Things like that have been happening since forever. And every time we fix one and we're like, yes, we're done, then another one crops up, and it's kind of been like that. Actually, very recently, we fixed, well, I say we, the Royal we have a fantastic team. They did like a very, very long digging and, into the, because obviously in a game this big, the code keeps growing and growing and growing. So they dug through all the spaghetti and they found some of the issues and they resolved them very recently. So and I've said this before, but now I actually believe that maybe finally we're there.
You're gonna jinx it, Pablo. How could you? All right, we have another question for Pablo. It's a video question by Rebel Dusty Pinky. So let's play it.
Hello, my name is Real Dusty Pinky. I'm a Warframe creator and avid Warframe player. I want to know more about Scarlet Spear. Scarlet Spear was my favorite event that ever came out so far on Warframe, and I loved the mechanics. I loved working with other teams to complete an objective, and I want to know if there's going to be another event that is going to be like that. So for anybody that can answer that, I would love to know if this event's going to come back or if those mechanics are going to be implemented into something else. Thank you.
So you say you loved that event. We loved it too once it was working, but the process to get it there, that was a hard one. So yeah, essentially it's more like that. We do obviously want to bring it back because we thought it was great. It's just more that we don't want to go through the 2 months we went there, like before and after release. That period was brutal, and we don't want to repeat that. So even though a lot of the things we did and fixed at the time would be like applied now, it's not as easy as just turn it on and it works. We definitely would have to do some again, a lot of load testing and stuff like that, and try and figure out just to make sure it doesn't destroy our lives for a month. So we definitely want to bring it back. It's definitely something that's a priority for us. Well, it's definitely something we want to do. I shouldn't say priority because you'll find out the priority later today. But it is something we want.
Awesome. All right, another question for Pablo. These are the more technical questions for designing. It's from Equi111 on PC. Their question is, are there any plans to rework certain types of missions, namely defense and mobile defense, to be less stay and put and more challenging or interesting? Pablo?
I don't. So in general, my tendency is to say there's not a lot of gain from reworking some of those. A basic mission, even if it's something that doesn't require you to be paying attention to a lot of objectives, it's actually very good because it kind of changes the pacing. If you're doing a defense, there's not that much to be worrying about versus if you're doing a disruption, right? So it's good that different missions will require different amounts of attention. It's also very good when you're starting on the game so that you're not like fully overwhelmed, because at that point you're also kind of overwhelmed by so many other things. So I think as a designer, it's much better to think like, okay, let's create the new, I don't know, nuclear defense, or something like make a new game mode that is more elaborate. That's more interesting to me than going and changing the old one, because that's the design part. Then there's also the live service game part, which is if I go and change the defense into something more complicated, a lot of people are going to be angry. A lot of people are going to be happy, a lot of people are going to be angry, some people are not going to care. So why go into the whole getting people angry? Better to make a new one. And it's like, hey, we have new stuff versus, hey, we took away that other thing you liked and now we changed it to this other thing, right? So I think it works better to just basically keep adding on top, which is, if you look at the history of Warframe, is very much kind of our policy.
We love it. All right, we have 5 minutes left in our Q&A segment, so I'm going to try and fly through these as quick as possible.
Quick answer mode.
But first, we're going to do a video question for Pablo. This one is from TVG Karoo. Let's play it.
It's a natural part of any creative process, especially the ones that's been going on for years and years. So my question is, would you ever consider retconning any in-game features to try a fresh new approach?
Yeah, I mean, we've done several 2.0s and things like that. It definitely depends on the feature, right? Like for us, like high priority comes from, like we call it preserving your investment, right? Like any time that you spent in the game, earning a mod or, doing something, we want to make sure that you never feel like you're going to lose it, right? So that's kind of our priority. So if we decide to rework, for example, if we decide to rework modding, it would be kind of a nightmare, right? Because we'd have to now figure out, okay, well, there's like, I don't even know how many we have right now, like 1,600, 2,000, I don't even know how many mods we have. But if we had to redo them, then we have to look at, okay, what does every player have? What happens if we remove this mod that maybe some people don't even care that much about? But, if we remove it, we got to compensate that. It's like it's very touchy there. So you got to make sure that if we're doing it, it is for a very good reason. So would we ever consider it? Absolutely. We've done it a bunch of times, but it is something to be taken with caution.
Mm-hmm. Very much caution. All right, we're going to go to a question for Elise. This is from Otark _ Kyrie on PC. Sorry, I butcher everything. They've asked, what would be your personal top 3 antiquated design? Is that how you say that? I think so. Perfect. Or mechanics in your respective departments that need some love?
Well, I'm not going to go over 3 because that sounds like it's going to take a lot of time. But one of the things I had a lot of fun with and thought made a great improvement to the game was adding the flying set for Wisp. And I think it would be really cool to have a couple of move sets we could do, like a normal, a heavy, and a light, so that when you're playing, and we could tie those to specific warframes. So like you'd have like Grendel and Rhino could have a heavier walk and a run, and if you're playing like Volt or someone, then he would have a lighter default walk and a run, and that's a lot of extra animation, a lot of extra performance and code and stuff. So I don't know if it's even feasible, but I think that would be really cool.
I agree. I'm on board. We have a question for everyone. This is from Elmet Neuter on PC. They've asked, can we gather the power of this live panel under the expertise of Elise to produce a motorbike type of vehicle for our Warframes? K-Drives are cool, but a K-Racer would be even cooler.
What about K?
Yes. Motorbikes would be amazing, I think. From like a big cruiser like a Harley Fat Boy or to like these insane sport bikes. I'm like a Grenier bike or like an Oracle speed bike. That'd be dope. We totally should do that.
Elise,
so
thoughts?
Good.
My favorite part of Cyberpunk was riding around on a motorbike. The mechanics in that were beautiful. If we could get anything close to that, I would be down, and I am also available for shooting the reference for that.
I'm also available for the concept of that too.
Okay.
And the animations.
Okay. Pablo, game design, motorbike.
I mean, what I would add for sure is Devil May Cry 5. You're riding your bike, you jump off, and then you start beating people up with your bike. That works immediately.
Let's do it. I'm down.
Bike tricks.
Bike tricks. All right, I won't go out of order so Dean doesn't kill me. So we are going to do one more question because we are unfortunately out of time. I apologize. This one is for Eric Vetter, and it is from Queen Miss Rule. And they said, good afternoon, Tenno. My question is for Eric. What is your favorite skateboard trick?
Oh, that's funny. When I used to skateboard, which I got a little bigger, so it's harder to skateboard now, but the kickflip was probably the best one. And then I kind of transitioned that into the no comply kickflip. So that's kind of my favorite trick.
everything you just said. I have
awesome.
no idea what it is.
Game.
All right, unfortunately, we're out of time for this panel. I had a lot more questions, and I appreciate you guys writing and thinking of answers for these, and of course being here. Crazy times these are. We got double vaccinated in the office. Pablo is safe at home. Pablo, thank you so much for joining us remotely. Anything you'd like to say, departing words?
Yes.
A pleasure to join you.
Every day. Oh God, we talked at the same time.
That's all right. At least go ahead.
Thank you so much to my team that inspires me every day. Love you guys.
Pablo, what do you got?
I just want to say a pleasure being here with you, and all the Tenno, be attentive for what's coming later. I'm sure you are. It's very, very exciting.
Eric?
Yeah, this has been awesome. Thanks for having me. I'd love to do this again, and I can't wait for everyone to see what we got lined up the rest of the day. It's going to be great.
We have a very exciting day planned, so don't go anywhere. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you online. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Your Warframe account so you can receive Twitch drops while watching TennoCon 2021. To link your Twitch account to your Warframe account, go to warframe.com/user and click the sync link to link. Just make sure you're logged into the Warframe account that you want to receive the drops on. This year, for watching throughout the day, you can get a Grineer Gunblade weapon. During Tenno Live, watch for a free Loki Prime.
Double check.
Enjoy TennoCon 2021.
I got deals. Come to my sale, come to my sale. Gotta dump this merch or I go to jail. Just kidding, friend. But seriously, I need to sell this stuff quick.
Dajia Hao. This next dojo is home to Tenno in Warframe's simplified Chinese community on PC. Introducing White Golf. They made this city from scratch. Let's get a closer look at that Ferris wheel. And to appreciate how carefully they used note beacons for all that text and all these light up decorations. It is beautiful.
How the hell can people do this?
In this room, I love the effect of having lights as her hands. She looks so grand and powerful.
Holy shit.
They completely filled this room top to bottom and made it fit for royalty. And I love the way they used the boats. Such cool detailing with the gold. I feel like I'm in the mountains for yet another vacation spot. Excalibur does not want to leave these places, I tell you. Thank you, White Golf Clan. White Golf Shizu, zizi ni min yu woman fen xiang ni min de dao chang. Now let's take a look at PlayStation Clan Progeny. Shadow art is another one of those aspects of dojo decorating that's become kind of a staple, and they have some beautiful pieces on display here.
Excuse me?
Aquatic, Jurassic, and peaceful. Decorations need to be placed very carefully to achieve these. There's no preset shadow art decoration in Warframe. It's all player creativity that made these happen. Here we are now in the clan's cyberpunk market.
Oh yeah.
It has a lot of fun little details and stores that they've created. One of my favorites being the sake bar, where they've created more beautiful shadow art to give it some life in this city. Naturally, Parvos's vaults, very well guarded, I'm certain. Thank you for sharing your dojo with us, Progeny. There are just 4 dojos left on our tour, Tenno. I'll catch you in the next one.
Hi, it's Megan again, and I'm back with another friendly reminder to relink your Twitch account to your Warframe account if you have not done so since the launch of Twitch Drops 2.0 back in February 2021. This is very important for receiving drops as well as giving drops as a streamer. A relink must happen if you have not already done so. Go to warframe.com/user and choose to unlink your account and then relink it. It's simple. Hope you're enjoying the show.
Welcome, friends. Buy my merch while it's hot. I'm desperate to sell all this stuff today. For no particular reason. Don't you know there's a sale going on?
Bravo, that's super loud.
Welcome, Tenno, to the Art of Warframe, a pre-recorded panel for TennoCon, and another year of talking to our talented panelists. My name is Danielle. I am a community manager. I am joined by Jeff, Keith, and Kaz, 3 members of the Digital Extremes art team, in which there are many, many, many wonderful artists. And why don't we get started with some introductions?
Hi, I'm Jeff. I'm the art director on Warframe. Nice to see you guys again. It's been a while. It feels like it's been a minute since we did this last time.
Hi, I'm Kaz. I'm the weapons team lead.
Hi, I'm Keith Thompson. I'm a concept designer. I've been helping out on Warframe since day one, and it's been about a year since the last TennoCon since I've seen everyone. And hi, Warframe players. It's good to be here.
Hi.
That's awesome.
And this year's art panel is a bit of a trip down memory lane, or as we've been calling it, quest to the new war.
Or see how much Jeff forgets.
Or see how much we all forget. So years and years and years of quests. We will be giving some context around those quests. And of course, I do have to give a spoiler warning, but maybe you want to stick around and watch anyways, see some cool concept art, see what you have in store for you if you are going down the quest line towards the new war. So we'll start with that, and then we will...
So this is like basically an open discussion on all quests that we've done up to this point.
Yes, Jeff,
everything that it entails.
You've done all of them, right? You've checked all the boxes.
As far as I know. See if there's any surprises in here.
There will be a quiz at the end of the panel, just in case you didn't know. But we will also move into another section to be continued, which for our Codex aficionados out there, that may ring some bells. And then we'll top it all off with some reveals. So maybe a deluxe skin here and there. And I guess we should get started with our quest to the new war, which starts with Nata. So we get to learn a little bit more about the Lotus, or as we learned, she was formerly known as Nata, a sentient mimic that was, ordered to destroy the Tenno back in the old war. But as I understand it, this is really the only early Lotus concept we have.
Yeah, we actually never did like a full concept exploration for the Lotus. It was really just a function of when Warframe first shipped as a co-op looter shooter that we just needed a voice to speak to the players, and we knew we wanted it to be Lotus, and Minky just had some ideas in his head and kind of solidified it around this transmission portrait, and it's been canon ever since.
Canon ever since,
Yep.
And our beloved mother figure to the Tenno.
That's right.
Yeah, a bag
and in this quest, as we know, the Lotus sends us to check out what's happening on Uranus, where Tilragor is kind of like rummaging around where he shouldn't be. Lo and behold, Tilragor is looking at some old war wreckage, or rather an old war tomb. So we have a concept here of that specific, it might be a familiar looking figure in the depths here.
And speaking of, I honestly forgot that was the progression that we did, that we kind of dropped the seeds, we dropped the breadcrumbs for this stuff through that tile set.
It just so happens that, like you said, the breadcrumbs, Tilragor accidentally ends up waking Hun Hao, who we see, which is who is rather Nata's father, and he's just a little upset that Nata has not fulfilled her orders of destroying the Tenno. And that's where we move into the second dream, which we see Hun Hao here looming over Stalker in the intro cinematic. And I guess a big point to bring up here about the second dream is that this was launched in 2015, and it was our first ever cinematic quest. So a pretty big project, I imagine, at the time.
Yeah, this is still probably one of my favorite memories, like working on Warframe, because it was right at that cusp where we were nervous to do this. You know, the game kind of was picking up steam and finding enough of an audience where players were getting genuinely interested in the world and the lore. And we thought we were taking a really big risk. We're like, I don't know, is this what people come to this game for? Let's try and build on the lore. And I still remember the kind of the reaction we got to it, and the connections that were formed in the game were still probably one of the most rewarding feedback, like senses of professional feedback we've had from the players.
I mean, Kaz, you were a player, you were a Tenno before you ended up working with us on the DE team. So you were actually, as I remember, as I understand it, you played through the second dream as a player, right? So you got to kind of live out those moments and those like reactions that we had. And we'll get through the couple more slides here where we have those big reveal moments that happen. But how was that for you, kind of like experiencing that as a player?
Yeah, so whenever I play quests for Warframe, I always have my headset on, my room is dark, my door is closed, there's no interruptions, I play it at night. Everything is set up to enjoy it, because there's so much to enjoy in all of these things, and especially with the second dream. I was crying through most of it, as probably most people do, but I also had that bug where the Warframe is carrying the operator like a gun.
Heartbreaking.
I remember just like I was in an emotional moment, but then I just had to just bust out laughing, and it was the weirdest feeling.
But in hindsight, it's part of Warframe's charm, maybe. I don't know.
Yes. The TennoGen program was started around this time, and right after the quest and my first item was added to the game, it was just the most surreal feeling to have the helmet on a Warframe, walk up to my operator and present my art to myself in another video game.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's very cool.
But I do want to talk about this, Keith. So in the intro cinematic,
Excuse me?
we do see Hun Hao. He's talking to Stalker. But how did Hun Hao become Hun Hao? Did it start with this fungi, organic, sentient that I'm seeing here?
There's this whole sort of set of different sentients that I was kind of initially exploring, which are very different from where we went. And a lot of their technology and their ships and their architecture was using this kind of language. And then I started to kind of mix them a little bit. And then I think the technology of them took over, kind of permeated everything else, a bit like a fungus, I guess. And then it kind of evolved from there. So I can't even remember what year this was. This was way back before the sentience existed.
This was definitely even before Second Dream. And I think, I know you and Minky, Mike Brennan, this is just one of a batch. I think there was there's a whole pretty huge evolution of exploration that went into these guys. And I think even this was kind of pretty close to where Hun Hao settled, when it was starting to feel good with the shape and the proportions.
Yeah, that's kind of, you can kind of see that shape familiarity and what ultimately ended up being Hun Hao and kind of the sentient form that we know now. And then I guess we kind of see that also translated in the weaponry. So the war being a very important key weapon in the second dream, it is the melee weapon that Hun Hao gives to Stalker. He equips him with it. He kind of manifests himself in it to give him orders to essentially destroy the Tenno, do his bidding, find the womb in the sky, as he likes to call it. But yeah, this became a very popular melee weapon. Was it the first of its kind in this sentient style and very large broadsword?
I'm pretty sure it was, yeah. And I think the cool thing about it was it the emotional connection as to the quest, and it was a really cool opportunity to kind of put a weapon as a quest reward that you kind of had the story-based experience with. Like the full version was the one that the sentient was, or sorry, that the stalker was given for his personal weapon and as a conduit for Hunhow to speak to him. And then the Broken War was, again, kind of a result of what happens at the climax of the second dream.
And Kaz, as a player at the time, were you stoked to get yourself this big sentient weapon? Because I know a lot of players were like, oh my god, this is crazy. We love big swords in Warframe, so this like hit the mark for a lot of people.
Yeah, and all the glowies on it too.
Love our glowies, love our
and the
energies.
little at the hilts, the little tail, the little shrimp tail. That's like kind of like a minky. He really liked to kind of give the sentients that little organic flair at the end. And a lot of them, if you'll notice the little curly tail on them.
Isn't it kind of like a tongue or something?
Yeah.
Like there's a whole face on the bottom. So you've got the two eyes and the curly tongue there.
Oh my god,
And then,
is that?
as I mentioned, Hunhow recruits Stalker to find where the Tenno are, and as we go through the quests ourselves, we find where they are. They're in these reservoirs on Lua. Here we have one out of the 3 big reveals that happen in this quest. There's lots of things that happen in this quest, and one of them being the operator exiting the reservoir pod at this moment. So
Yeah, this was I remember this was my favorite parts to work on the quest. And when we were kind of thinking about these pods, we wanted to call back to have that Orokin feel to it, and we really wanted the inspiration of how they come out and kind of blossom like a flower to show the connection to the Lotus and what her role was with them. So I think this is really successful in how this kind of manifested in the scene.
yeah, there is that moment of kind of like you're scratching your head a bit, wondering what creature just suddenly dropped out of these pods.
Very elegant reveal, then we just spilled them onto the floor.
Here you go.
Yeah.
You waited years for this reveal. Here's the operators. And then we have our second big reveal, which ended up being you actually seeing the Lotus. So this occurs, of course, near the end of, or at the end rather, of the quest. And the Lotus scoops us up, and she proceeds to take us to her transference chair. So we see some concept here of what her full suit actually was supposed, or what we were planning on what her suit was going to look like.
No, this came about because we needed to show her. Like we needed to have her in the scene, and
right.
she only existed as a portrait. So that's where Minky kind of did this was the first time Minky did the full exploration of what this form of the Lotus would be.
And if I'm not mistaken, and I might be, but the dress form on the left hand side there, was that kind of like a paint over for a cosplayer? I think there was like a cosplay request.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I don't actually think we had art of the Lotus, because at that point, like you said, it was just transmission of just what we saw at the beginning of the panel.
That's
just her
funny.
face.
Oh my god, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
and then we couldn't put it into game because it was a bit too restrictive for for the walk cycle at the time. So
right,
yeah,
she's too much fabric in the way of walking. You don't want to trip while you're holding an operator. It's just
exactly. Been dumped on the floor a few times.
And as I mentioned, the Lotus, she walks, she drops us off in our transference chair. But this room in particular is now a very important room for our players. It's where the operators reside. It's where you work on your focus schools. And
this room, there was years where you couldn't access it as well for some players.
Yeah, the doors were locked, and everyone was wondering what's behind the doors, and it was a transference room.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny how we put our character creation funny in hindsight, 100 hours into the game back then. We've made it quicker now. But weirdly, it's kind of like this recipe that I don't think you could redo it again. We got lucky that, we had this kind of dedicated player base who were already established and just kind of yearning for this kind of lore expansion, that it just worked out. I don't like that it kind of worked out that it was this really long tutorial, and you finally got the reveal. And then we had to create this room to function to that relationship of what the operator is as a pilot to and this kind of symbiotic relationship they have with the Warframe.
So the Zeraman suit mask gets pulled away, and you get to start customizing your operator. So here's some what I assume are very early works of the operator.
It's hilarious. I remember this. It's really funny that I remember when Steve and I were talking to Minky about the idea of the second dream and the reveal. He was skeptical. He was very skeptical about putting kids in the game, and he's like, I don't know, and he's like, fine, I'll give it he was totally game to try it out, and he convinced us of his skepticism by making a really cool concept design for the kids. Like, it kind of solidified it for us when he did this.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where what was kind of nice about the operators in the Warframe is you sort of start almost as your adult self, and then you almost introduce yourself as a youth. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of interesting, depending on where you are in your life, which you might identify with more or less, and yet it's kind of part of a cohesive link. So it's kind of nice to have that simultaneously existing in the same space and time and within the game world.
And Lotus at the end of the second dream says, and I quote, and I can't quote it properly, Reb, I'm sorry, I can't do the Lotus voice, but she says, now we fight on two fronts, my child, the war without and the war within. So we hop into this next quest where, now that the operators had been revealed in the second dream, we go down a little bit of this rabbit hole of their origins, their backstories, and what makes the Tenno in this quest. Teshin kind of becomes this double agent in this story, not by choice, mind you, but here he is in all of his robed, large hat glory.
So he kind of existed in that realm, and he had a bit of like a backstory for them. The Dax were soldiers for the Orokin, and it was really good when we were kind of going into the new the war within. For him to be a bit of a conflicting voice to what the Lotus represent to the kids. He wanted to kind of cast some doubt on the past and kind of what the operator's role. And we used him to explore the kind of theme around the war within was growth for the operators.
He has a bit of a father figure place too, like Lotus's mother, and then he's a bit of the kind of slightly absent father. Kind of.
He shows up again.
But actually, Kaz, I'm curious. We kind of mentioned that the father figure a little bit here. Were you, as a player, when you came into this, were you like, "Oh, Teshin, what happened?"
I'm gonna use the bathroom, but I'm gonna keep this up.
I just remember being so impressed with his voice, I just wanted him to keep talking.
You're like, I don't care what you have to say, if it's going to be disappointing or not, just keep talking.
Yeah. I do remember liking that he was casting doubt on everything, though, because as a player, I was seeing the cracks starting to form in the Lotus's story, and all of that lead up to it kind of prepared me to want to see something that maybe goes against what Lotus has been doing the whole time.
Yeah, that was definitely a community sentiment. I think this was definitely the quest that kind of created a little bit of a rift there with our personal relationship with the Lotus. So we do enter this mountain pass where this art is just absolutely gorgeous.
It really comes alive in game too. It has so much vitality. And so it's always tricky to carry through the vitality from the artwork into the final product, but this one it's almost like it got instilled with it and it increased once it got finished.
Yeah, they did a great job implementing it in game. And I think this was probably one of the first, this is where we were really starting to kind of build on the seeds of the Orokin influence to the past. And yeah, it worked out really well with that little temple that you're pushed into.
But from here, we attempt to use our operator powers on this Iatan, and it doesn't work out so well. Actually, we end up falling into a lovely pile of bones at the bottom of this pit, where we are met with the Golden Maw, or more popularly known in the community as the Ravenous Maw. Why does it have to be ravenous? Yeah, why does it have to be ravenous?
Yeah, so this was a function of we wanted to, in the context of the quest, this was to kind of put the player through some trials so they could kind of snap some memories back and trigger their powers. And I remember when Minky was exploring these, you notice the four-legged kind of look. A lot of Warframe, because the content moves so fast, we like to share skeleton structures in the animation where we can. So those kind of like quadruped-looking ones were him taking, an existing skeleton and kind of seeing how far he could push it. And there's really great stuff, but ultimately, I think with the timeline we had, the kind of snake worm version that we ended up with was going to be a bit more achievable in the time we had, like animation and AI behavior.
And I know, Jeff, you mentioned this, the snapping back of memories, which is as we're moving through these trials and we're getting our powers back, we have these snapshots of our time on the Zeraman 10-0 ship and some very dramatic moments of this kind of flashbacks of the incident. And here we actually have a concept of the ship itself.
Yeah, so in that quest, we were using those moments to give the player some insight into what happened on the ship, to the origin of the Tenno and the powers they achieved or they attained from the void. And so at the time, we were doing some explorations for the ship, and this people who've been with us for a long time might even recognize the silhouette from prototypes we did in 2004 with Dark Sector. But yeah, the intention was that the ship was the colony ship, and yeah, it was just some explorations that we were hoping to manifest, but couldn't squeeze into the quest. I think in hindsight, it was probably more effective to leave it vague, and just have that little kind of bit of insight in the context of the trauma that the operator was going through. So I think it worked out rather like it being kind of suggested rather than like we literally showed you.
Right. And we kind of we've peppered in the Zeraman here and there.
Mm-hmm.
We've shown it in the Rel web comic when the Chains of Harrow launched. We saw it in the Vitruvian, which we'll get to in the Sacrifice. So definitely just kind of seeing generally what the Zeraman has looked like, just to give players a little taste of it. But here we're actually seeing it in full color or full concept, which is really cool too.
This is some exploration of the event, where it hits the void and things change on the Zeraman.
Yes. Yes, which we actually see in these next slides. So here we have a look at a very small look at the inside of the Zeraman and the classroom. And there's so much to see in this one image, like lots of familiar faces, maybe
Definitely,
some familiar objects. So
Yep.
I think I'm going to let people at home who are watching kind of dissect it for themselves and see what they find. Maybe there's some unfamiliar things that you see there, but and then disaster strikes. So
yeah, and if players have played Rel, like if they played the Rel quest, they are kind of familiar with the state change that happens on the ship, and this was again a bit of an exploration of that.
And so here we are. We did our self-discovery in the War Within, and we find ourselves going back to the reservoirs on Lua, where we dropped out of our pods, and we hear some flashback discussions between Margulis and Ballas in the Apostasy prologue. So we also end up dropping down from the reservoirs into this enclave of sorts, which ultimately I believe is, I guess we could call it like the Lotus's chamber.
Yep. Yeah, and the cables were kind of meant to speak to her connections to all the different Tenno out there. She was kind of like the hub.
And then we got kind of like a little bit closer to what we actually see in the quest when her throne comes up, and we have this much more floral arrangement, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, and again, for the purposes of the cinematic, we wanted to have something that can work as a reveal device as well. So this would unfold and reveal the Lotus to you.
And reveal the Lotus. It happens. But not until we are just completely rudely interrupted by Ballas, who has the audacity to reach out his hand to the Lotus and walk out of our lives with her in hand, essentially. And he says, of course, I will not abandon you again, Margulis, before they do so. And this is kind of where we step into the sacrifice. But before we get into that, which, Ballas is a pretty big character in that story. Keith, this is your original concept of Ballas.
Yeah, we had to do this because I think we've shown this concept before. We made the decision to, like, Ballas at the point had only been a voice in some trailers that we had put out, and of course in some voiceover in Second Dream, doing some narration there. And then when we wanted to reveal him, we reached out to Keith, to kind of like help us come up with a physical manifestation for him. And it's funny, he kind of threw us for a loop, because, and I think even some players called us out for it, because Steve had a small paragraph of existing lore describing the Orokin as perfectly balanced, and then he gave us this beautiful take with this frightening arm that just seemed to suit. It was such a cool change and such a new idea for us, for Steve and I, and it spoke to the kind of like evil quality, to the Orokin.
The way I kind of synthesize it, I think, or I attempted to in my own mind, is it was sort of the Orokin are so sort of elaborate and sophisticated and built up that they need this kind of offset built into their culture and their aesthetics. So it's sort of like the beauty mark. It's the spot on like the perfect kind of face and the kind of offset to the perfect body. So in a weird way, they have this principle of their aesthetics, and they like to play against it also as this sort of level of sophistication. The way kind of a beautiful object, you appreciate the way it's worn or cracked, that kind of thing. They almost like built that into themselves as their own unique expressions within this structure that they all share.
The long arm was supposed to be a callback to the ancients, the infested ancients, right? Or no?
I actually think that was just a weird coincidental convergence. I don't think I thought about that. And I've seen people say that maybe there's some connection there. So that's sort of one of those fun organic things that kind of develop, where we may build off of that more. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally thought that as a fan. I thought it was supposed to be ancient.
And I mean, the long arm is excellent for Comey playing at long distances, which we see happen in the quest. So for a little bit of context, essentially what the War Within was for operators, the Sacrifice quest is essentially for Warframes. And in this quest, we're also just kind of wondering where the Lotus went. So where did Ballas take the Lotus? And we speak to the creations of the Warframe specifically through these Vitruvian moments, which, as I understand it, was originally intended to be a device worn by Ballas. I don't think we actually see it in the quest itself, but it's a pretty big storytelling device used throughout the quest.
Yeah, the intention was kind of like, how would Ballas have his like little personal computer on him to keep his little diary of experiments? But the idea of the Vitruvian was, as you said, to give this quest was to give some insight into the Warframes, and we kind of confirmed again what the kind of base ingredient is for a Warframe, I guess.
And as much as Ballas is a main character in the quest, Umbra, the big
Umbra,
obviously something a Warframe that players waited for a long time, and we introduced him into the Warframe world through the Sacrifice and his Skiajati, his right hand sword or left hand. I don't actually know which way he wields it, but right hand sword.
Yeah, I think I remember Lucas telling me that he just wanted to see if he could get away with making a stick as a sword.
And he did it.
He got away with it.
He got away with it.
Yeah, that was all Lucas. I love this sword design, actually. It's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, the black and gold aesthetic really spoke to our edgy players, I think. So this was a well-loved addition with the Sacrifice. And the sword, like I said, it becomes important because, by the time that
that's what got me into the car
and our operator, as we've shared these memories with Umbra, we want to seek out our revenge against Ballas for what he had done to Umbra. And there's the scene at the end here where the Skiajati is used to do a little hack and slash to Ballas. And the Lotus returns. but
not
she's
quite the Lotus.
But not quite the Lotus. She looks a little different. In fact, she is quite Nata. So Keith, what's going on here? What happened to her?
It's one of those things where it's slowly kind of revealing more of her true form, but then it's kind of called into question how far you've gone. And then, because we get this interesting thing where the beginning of the Lotus, when we first see her, her eyes are always covered. And I think this is the first time we ever see her eyes. But then at the same time, with that reveal, it's also revealing that the face itself is almost like a mask. So the way I was kind of designing it is this idea that her true sentient form is sort of wearing the human shapes like a carnival mask or like something in a masquerade. So she sort of, pulls it tighter and closer and expands it out depending upon the context and the mood and how she's relating to the player or the other people in the scene.
Interesting. So is she to be trusted?
and even there's still this question of who she is. It's sort of like once you reveal the mask, do you know what the next thing is? Because it's sort of part of her nature. She's this mimic. So is she also kind of fronting to the sentience? Because there's that friction there. So.
Right. So we have this moment where, we were already shocked to see the Lotus leave, and we're even more shocked to see her return as Nata in this moment. And this was a moment. This was definitely a moment.
And just to compliment everything Keith said, I think I love this design so much because I think it's just so strong at kind of supporting the themes he was mentioning. And there is something I love about, with the eyes, with the reveal of her eyes, there's something, I kind of love the contrast of getting a bit more of her humanity when you see her as a sentient. It just played to that reveal. It made that reveal, I think, a lot more kind of like have a bit more emotional weight to it, than if she was just, a pure sentient, kind of like Hunhao or anything like that.
I do remember, though, I saw the concept before I saw any work done on the model, and I wasn't sure how to feel about the concept, especially I saw it uncolored as well, so I was like, But once it was in the game and all lit and part of a narrative and just the whole team bringing it into this really beautiful state, it just really blew me away. So it just goes to show, like, even the weirdest designs that Keith comes up with our team, we end up just all dogpiling on it and making it just beautiful. Like, everyone working together makes everything beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, seeing her in game was definitely shocking, but she has this very, she has the sentient style, but also it's very Lotus. It's very Nata.
It speaks to something that she still keeps the mask, if you know what I mean. Because she's never become fully sentient to anyone yet. Yeah. So there's this sort of thing like, does that mean something? Is that an important gesture? Does it mean something about her, deep down as well as her agency and her character, that she still wants to have that mask on?
Right. So we essentially just have all these questions going around in our heads. A lot happens at the end of the sacrifice. Lotus comes up and swoops up Ballas in his injured state, and she just blasts off into space, Team Rocket style, just see you later. And she says, drifting, gone beyond the bleak star, mother, I am coming home. And we're like, who's mother? What is happening? Why is she gone again? Where is she taking Ballas? And a lot of those questions are partially answered in the Chimera prologue, which is part 1 of 3 of the new war chapters that you see in your codex. So we end up back on Lua, back to the reservoirs, back to the Lotus chamber, and we enter the light where Ballas had initially taken Lotus away from us. And as we step into this sort of sentient chamber, we meet Ballas again, but he's looking a little different.
What's aware?
Sentient than normal. So another one of your concepts, Keith, here.
This is sort of one of those ones where it's almost working the opposite way. This is where it's sort of an Orokin, but with the sentient elements being kind of pushed into him without any sympathy for what was originally there. So it's kind of very different from the way that mix that you have with Nata and the merging of the kind of human forms and the sentient forms. This is sort of the opposite direction of it. So he's really been kind of demeaned by it to some extent. And he used to be so proud that it creates this sort of this emotional connection there to him, even if you weren't that sympathetic to him. until this point.
Yeah, I think like you kind of really have like he has such a pathetic quality to him in this. That, but it was amazing because when we did the acting, when we did the cinematic for it, it was just it was easy, like, you know, to kind of convey that emotional state of him because the design was so good. And I love the extra little like added insult to injury with the dangling leg was just such a good touch.
The sort of thinking behind it was the Santians were sort of like, oh, it doesn't really get in the way, so leave it. It doesn't matter. It would be cleaner to take it off, but they're almost like not paying attention to that part anymore.
Yeah, and he kind of stumbles around in this chamber, mumbling under his breath while also kind of knowing that we're there.
Yeah, I think this is the first.
Can we ever get
I think this is the first tease of being inside.
a capture scene for that?
You know, and yeah, you were kind of spying on.
Or are we ever going to?
You kind of get some insight that he might have summoned you there. You know, and I think, you know, the question I think we're asking here, and you know, is Ballas a prisoner? You know, is he not? You know, or maybe he's someone who's opportunistic and was a prisoner and is maybe having some plans of his own.
Well, we kind of wonder that question too, because he's building this weapon and he's kind of like circling around this chamber, and he ends up making the paracesis.
Can we just talk about how good that sheath is, though?
Oh, let's talk about it.
Like
Cal,
the sword sheath is so good. I think this whole panel to start really has just been leading up to this moment where we can show
Just buttering me up.
Show this.
So Lucas made the sword, and I made the sheath for it. I did the 3D version of it, obviously from Keith's concept art. But the players never get to use the sheath, so it never got released anywhere.
It was too good for the game. Was the problem? It was too good. We couldn't fit it in.
If I had my way, the players would always just sort of unsheath it and just hurl the sheath off into the distance, and it would just be back when they need it.
Yeah, and when you equip it, you just.
Yeah, it was just an unfortunate thing of function. The sword was so big, we couldn't have the Warframes sheath it properly.
It is a big sword, and so appropriately named the Sentient Slayer. So I think, given the size and the name, it kind of, you know, lives in harmony. But we end this this first chapter, moving into the second chapter titled Era. And we enter the scene of an old war battle where we meet Era for the first time, who we learn is Nata's brother. And we have a concept of Era, two concepts of him, you know, the lanky lad and his little perched, you know, kind of throne seating.
Originally, this was sort of this idea of something in the mothership, these things called gargoyles, and they were kind of going to be features of potentially either her or her architecture, that kind of thing. And you were always kind of going to be unsure of which one might basically suddenly stretch down from its perch and come at you. And then I guess in the end, it was sort of like, well, I think that's actually a full-on character now. And it went from there.
Keith's problem was
nice.
There was so much
a lot of good weird movement.
Yeah, there was such great personality in the design when it came time for us to
I like his voice a lot.
You know, this just kind of seemed to fit the bill for what we wanted to portray with him. And the really cool thing about this concept is we were able to actually do the kind of folded state and have him animate in that one cinematic where he started up in his perch state and kind of fold out of it. The character team was really able to build it off this, and then the animation team, it totally worked. We were able to pose him in this exact pose. Yeah, and it worked out great.
It's one of those tricky things where it kind of looks like a weird like mix and mashed up thing there, but I'm always careful not to give anyone too much hard work figuring it out. So I try to always make sure I design something where it can unfurl and move if I'm going to show it doing that.
Yeah, it worked out great.
And we do see, just as speaking of this unfurling in the cinematic, where we jump from that old war flashback where we seemingly see Era get destroyed by the Lotus and her gang of operators, but then we're jumped to the present where Era and Nata are having discussions around preparations around the war. And as we kind of zoom into this throne scene, you see him debark from his throne, from his little crouched froggy state. So but this is just some concept art of that, really, that scene.
And can we get a full capture also?
The ship itself?
Yeah, exactly. And that was, as you said, that was a deliberate decision the Lotus made at the time, was to cast her a lot with the operators and help end the war. And now she's back home.
Just back home, back to mother. And some more, just a kind of a pullback angle when you originally jump into the present, you're kind of sitting far back.
And this room is part of the tile set expansion. Like I know we've given the players a taste of the sentient.
Oh,
but
cool.
there is still much more to come, much very cool spaces to come.
And then we are at the third and final kind of, I guess you could say, prologue chapter of the new war. And we recently just titled it The Maker. And we enter this scene of just essentially what I guess is the mothership. Mm-hmm. And this was originally your concept, Keith, of this very large sentient ship.
This is those ones where you got so much room and space, you can just go absolutely monumental and just throw the view way back. So I had a lot of fun because there was a lot of other development kind of leading up to this, and I think as we sort of explored it, it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I got happier about that. And this is one of the ones where and it's sort of, even has the potential there. You can see on the right with the kind of almost the weave work and the framing it's building up, is that I even had plans of, like, if we ever wanted to make it even bigger, guys, we can do that if you want.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it was great. There's
a floor plan there.
And the kind of like the pitch that we gave, that Steve and I gave to Keith, that she was heavily damaged in the war, and kind of left to die. And this is a state of her very long process of rebuilding herself. So the main core kind of body there is what's been kind of more fully rebuilt, and the membranes that are expanding again, because the sentients are living creatures. That's her kind of rebuilding her larger form. So the true form of the mothership is even bigger than what we have here, and that's why I think a lot of the skybox art shows. I believe there was one of like it consuming asteroids and kind of having this gravitational pull. We're just pulling resources into itself that's using to kind of produce and rebuild itself.
And I guess just as you guys were mentioning, as she's rebuilding, we have a concept essentially of this kind of like wasteland of space junk that's been pulled into this mouth, I guess you could call it, in a way.
Well, I think, Keith, you kind of designed it like the mouth of a whale, right? And the way it kind of filters in the
krill.
It
sort of had these almost baleen that would filter, so she could kind of select what detritus that she wanted to accept and filter out. She's still picky. She's not just
So we kind of cap off this third and final installment pre the new war. Again, we're back in the ship, and we're hearing just kind of these final conversations between Era and Nata, where Era tells Nata, finish the war. It's beginning. Here we go. And this is where we leave off. The codex now says to be continued. If you've completed all the quests, if you've done all these chapters, there's this new addition on the bottom there that says to be continued. And well,
now they're finally like, the players are like, oh, finally we're gonna see some new stuff.
Yeah. Now we're getting to the new stuff. Now we're getting into the what's to come, because that kind of asterisk there of this to be continued has us wondering, well, what is there? What's on the other side? So we're gonna do a little sneak peek here of what is to come, without being too spoilery. So we're gonna start with some new enemies that we'll see, starting with this guy.
So again, Keith has been helping out with New War exploration, and we've talked about it, that New War is the focus for this year, hopefully to the relief of players who've been very patient with us in that regard. Yeah, so we're going to be seeing some new, we have to be a little vague here, I apologize, but these guys do have a very specific function in the New War, and
yeah, I think one of the hints is this isn't how you'd normally see this.
Yeah,
it's doing something a little scary right now. Hopefully scary.
And then, who is this? Who might we have here?
He looks a little familiar.
What?
Yeah, so he's, of course, our boy is going to play a pretty big role in the war that's coming. And he's trying to get his groove back, I guess. He's kind of embraced to agree. I think he's living a bit of a deceit. I think I love how Keith is trying to work in Ballast, trying to get some of his symmetrical beauty back with the prosthetic leg. But yeah, Ballast is trying to embrace this new form he has and be a presence in the new war.
Sort of interesting because in this case, it's sort of a character in the world, almost designing himself, because it's sort of him figuring out his new style and this new kind of costume and everything. So and that's going to run through a bunch of other stuff. So it's kind of fun because I'm almost designing as though I'm Ballast inside the world.
We've entered Ballas's new groove, essentially. And I feel like the levels of Ballast transformations that have happened are reaching like Dragon Ball Z levels.
Pretty good, yeah.
Been through a lot of stages. And actually, I kind of want to point something interesting that I've noticed in both the previous enemy and with Ballast, we see this weapon. So
we gonna get that
together, but is this going to be something that players will receive, or
ideally yes? Ideally,
what
that's something
kind of weapon?
when you see something on the quest, we try to find a way to make sure it's a reward, but specifically with the current function that this is going down, likely you would get a modified version.
And okay, this next concept, I don't have an introduction for other than WoW, and what am I looking at?
Yeah,
this is
this
so
is amazing.
cool.
What the hell is that? Holy shit.
Yeah, the new war is going to introduce, again, like we've already seen a new enemy type, but I would say this is probably a bit more of a sub-boss. And this is tied to Era and his role in the new war and the kind of troops he's building. And the body that you're seeing with the attachment on it is a repurposed Prime Warframe. So Era is getting his hands on some Warframes and modifying them to be some of his minions. And Keith had some pretty cool explorations here in the background that maybe he can expand on. Like, we'll see how far we get with those designs, but I still really love
a Prime Warframe.
Yeah, there's sort of a mechanical thing, both the gameplay and the theme of it with those guys, but they're reminiscent, hopefully, of something we're familiar with already, which are the Vomvalists. So these are kind of a tangential entity, similar to the Vomvalists, with their own unique function, which relates to this character, this design, and they're potentially going to actually be kind of kept in a magazine hopper along the back tail there. So you can actually see there's 4 out right now, and there's four gaps already. So it's one of those things where you'll be able to visually sort of tell how many are left, how many do I have to worry about coming, that kind of thing.
So the Archons are basically just Vomvalist taxis.
Yeah, exactly. That's all they do. Yep.
Vomvalist taxis.
Yep.
Well, one of the interesting things about this I wrestled with was kind of the notes for this was there'd be a sort of a snake theme. And when I was addressing it, one of the things I absolutely love about the Warframe universe is just because we say snake, it's not like snakes like we're familiar to. Snakes are totally different now. So I'm trying to keep it as kind of otherworldly and whatever we might call a snake that far flung into the future.
Yeah. I'm excited to make weapons for it.
Yeah.
I was just about to ask you, Kaz, because I know you have an affinity and a love for like infested weapons, and this is definitely giving me like big sentient arm gun vibes that we showed.
Oh yeah.
Maybe.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see. So here is our first look at the next Warframe, and as I can kind of tell here, we're adding essentially to our very small roster of sentient Warframes, or sentient kind of like hybrid Warframes or styled Warframes, of course. Yeah. Revenant being the Eidolon sentient kind of energy-esque Warframe. So we've entered a new stage, I guess, of sentient style.
Yeah, and to be totally like upfront about it, like this was actually Keith is amazing at like every once in a while, every time like there's occasionally over the years he'll just say, hey, by the way, here's 20 Warframe ideas, and like you're just like, oh my god, and they're all amazing. And he had done a sentient hybrid a few years ago, and I remembered it because it just seemed really perfect for the theme of the new war, and especially with what we were just talking about with what Era's doing with Warframes. That as a reward, as a quest reward for a blueprint, it would fit the theme really well to execute on this Warframe. So there's probably going to be some adjustments we have to make in the 3D mesh for the skeleton, but yeah, I think it's really great to kind of tie this one in.
I always like the kind of hybrid Warframes too, because it's sort of like, should we really trust this one as much as the other? It's sort of a little bit iffy.
And I'm seeing a very interesting weapon being held, and I'm assuming this is going to be his signature weapon. As we release Warframes, it typically come with their signature weapon. So Kaz, are we going to be exploring a little bit more of this kind of like staff, I guess, style? Is this what we would consider that, a staff?
Maybe a scythe type weapon, but I'm thinking we're going to do a few changes to make it work within the bounds of the game. It's just kind of like where it strikes and all that kind of stuff. I think we're going to be making some changes to the head, especially.
Okay, so now we're getting into some cosmetics that we could look forward to, and what I guess we've been calling evolving armor or evolving sentient armor. I guess Kaz, you could speak more to this.
Yeah, so basically, as part of one of our quests, there's going to be a reward of this armor set, and as you complete a certain goal, you get rewarded with the different forms of it. So in a sense, it's evolving, but you will have each version of this in your arsenal by the time you're done with it. Yeah.
So kind of like a visual representation of your power in the game. And we're getting into some weaponry here, more sentient style. This is just incredible.
Yeah, Manoj really blew it up.
Yes.
This is one of his first, possibly his first concept pieces. There's basically 3 states to it, and one of them is just the initial state where it's like holstered. Then there's the quick draw kind of state where the bow is kind of smaller. But then when you're aiming, the tendrils kind of stretch taller and the whole thing kind of focuses down together so that you've got that visual representation of that aiming sort of thing going on.
And then we're moving on to a little deluxe segment here. So here we go. Here's a concept of the Volt, kind of, I guess, playing along on that sentient theme again, but a deluxe that we have planned for Volt by Nikita.
Yeah, he was talking about really wanting to have some like clouds and electricity, so you can see it running through the character's body. But it's also based on
as well.
You can kind of feel that throughout the piece.
We're moving on to a deluxe skin for a Warframe that currently does not have a deluxe, and that is Protea. And
you say it with the Reb accent.
Oh, do I? Protea?
The emphasis on the T.
Protea.
She's a tea drinker. I mean,
this is true. Reb likes her tea. And this is just
that is
so ornate, and it's gorgeous.
I'll play her.
A bit of credit on this. I'm pretty sure I poked Reb. I'm like, Reb, because I saw some concepts from this artist. I'm like, Reb, see if they'll do something. Yeah, and again, as usual, just really great process. They gave us really a lot of quick sketches and acted on the feedback really fast, and I think just came up with a really strong look for Protea.
And then again, we're showing one more deluxe from another community fan artist who we worked with before, and we actually showed last year when we were debuting Zaku. But Karu is back with a banger for Baruch, and Baruch being Karu's one of Karu's favorite Warframe, actually. So Karu actually approached us, I believe, and sent me an email and said, "Hey, I love Baruch, and I would love to take a shot at making a deluxe skin." And she had sent us kind of some ideas, and here we have it, the Baruch Deluxe.
Yeah, I'm really glad it got to work out that way. Like I'm super happy that if there's an artist who's inspired to make art for Warframe, and there's an opportunity for them to, and we have a good relationship with them, and there's an opportunity for them to work on their favorite Warframe as well. Yeah, I think it's fantastic, and it worked out perfect because we actually don't have a deluxe yet for Baruch. So.
And okay, here we go. We're at the end of the panel.
Is there another one?
Oh no, we're done with the deluxe skins.
Oh, okay.
We're not done with we're not done with our final reveal for our art panel this year.
I already forgot what it is, Daniel.
Did you?
I totally did.
Did you?
This is gonna be seriously, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a long year. It's been a long year.
Well,
it has been.
Yeah.
Here's a little reminder. Nidus.
Oh yeah! Oh my god!
Oh shit!
So good. I'm so happy. I forgot.
I forgot too.
Holy shit!
Everyone forgot.
This is so cool too, because it's we kind of went full like the retrospective. It was so cool. We started with Minky, with Mike Brennan, who helped us start Warframe, and now he's back. He's back doing Nidus Deluxe, or sorry, Nidus Prime rather. For us. Yeah, I poked him. I was just kind of catching up with him, seeing how he's doing.
I don't know what.
Kind of tossed out a line to see if he would bite, and he said, "Hey, has anyone done Nidus Prime yet, or have they started it yet?" And I was like, "Oh my god, no!"
And I do think, if I'm not wrong, Minky was the original design, like concept artist and design artist for Nidus, right?
Absolutely,
So his base form. So this is a lovely full circle moment. With some key artists that we've had on the team, and it's really nice to see it kind of all come together again.
Yeah, and I know I've seen players speculate about Nidus Prime coming up, and they've asked about how the lore works, and it's pretty cool. This isn't official by any means, but Minky even asked those questions himself. Like just the thought process behind the design. He's like, perhaps this form of Nidus was able to infest Orokin Gold himself. There is some other explorations going on that the writers are kind of teasing out as well. So we'll see. We are going to work out some lore that has this make sense. But yeah, as you can see, we have the concept for the base form and the fully stacked. And I think he has a concept, now that I'm remembering everything, I think he has a concept here for the stages as well that we can
Ta-da!
see.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So this is kind of the idea he built for how the stack could work and progress.
I like that.
I think it's just so fantastic. I think it works really great.
Incredible.
So you can kind of see the shape language coming into work.
Okay.
The one thing too is if you can't see it here in the image, but when you rotate around it, you get this really amazing sense of depth. Incredible layers he has going on with.
Oh. Well.
I don't want like the hot pink and neon green. The poor Nidus, he doesn't deserve that. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I mean, we might see some white, pink, blue, and lime green maggots running around, which we are priming. We are priming the maggots, as I understand, so they'll have a whole new look too.
Yeah. So his so the fun kind of like playing like the inside baseball playing with Warframe is that he's designed the maggots around Excalibur Prime. So it's a really great callback to the original Prime.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible. Also, we are just showing the helmet model here. Definitely tune in to Tenno Live at the end of our TennoCon day to see the full reveal of Nidus Prime.
My very last project when I was working off-site contract was the Hema and the Hirudo. So both of his signature weapons.
That's right. I remember that. That's right. That's crazy. That's cool.
How are we going to get the Hema part?
Of course, with our Prime Access, we have the weapons that typically was originally released with the Warframe, which, like Kaz, as you mentioned, was the Hema and the Harudu. But given the infested nature of the weapons, are we planning on doing something different, or curious what we have in store for weaponry that we could see with Nidus Prime?
Yeah, so we're not going to be doing the infested stuff, but instead we're going to be going kind of back to our roots and priming some really old weapons. So I'm sure there's going to be some lore reasons for that.
To be determined, but you'll have to stick around to see Nidus Prime actually release. And Keith, I don't know if you had any comments about the Nidus Prime situation we got going on here, but
it's always fun to see infested stuff come back. It's like you get to work back into another form and kind of give it a good disease. So, especially these days, I guess it's fun to play with that kind of theme.
Yeah.
Oh God.
It's therapy. It's very therapeutic.
Yeah, that's how we get through it. Yeah.
And here we find ourselves at the end of this year's Art of Warframe panel, and we've
Stop.
We've gone through a lot. We've been through pretty much Warframe's entire quest line.
Thanks for the trip down memory lane, Danielle.
Thank you guys for making me be able to go down this trip down memory lane and actually get to like experience the story. As a Warframe player myself, these moments were really special, and as the quest progressed, we got to learn more and more about who we are, who the Warframes are, about these really key characters in the story. So I'm very excited to see what this next chapter holds for us in the new war. And thank you guys for joining me. It's again, last year we did this. It's just such a pleasure to have you guys on to talk about this stuff. It's so fascinating to hear the works behind the art and making these things come to life. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for organizing it and getting us all together and chatting about it. And of course, thank you to the players for watching and supporting us as usual. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And hopefully they are excited about new war stuff, because we're very excited about the stuff going into it.
Yes.
Very excited.
Quick big thanks to the whole Warframe team. Love what we're making and love working with everyone. And thanks to the players too. And I'm really glad you enjoyed the game and all the work.
I second that.
I heard that.
Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you again for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the rest of TennoCon. We will see you next year, I guess. This is gonna happen next year.
Well, maybe a little later on for today for me, I guess, right? Today,
yes.
Then, the day we do this.
You'll see Jeff at some point later today. But thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy, like I said, the rest of TennoCon. And let's go on to the next segment.
Thanks so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
I'm not sure if I'll be able to
You can receive Twitch drops.
stream the whole thing. So
Your Twitch account.
I think when I hit 3 hours, I'm gonna call it there.
Logged into the Warframe account.
Or sooner. We'll see.
For watching throughout the day, you can get a Grineer Gunblade weapon. During Tenno Live, watch for a free Loki Prime. Enjoy TennoCon 2021.
Go you.
Friends, buy my merch while it's hot. I'm desperate to sell all this stuff today. For no particular reason. Don't you know there's a sale going on? And that it's incredible?
The Nintendo Switch clan we're about to tour has been part of Warframe since we first launched on the platform. Let's take a look at how Clockworks has maintained a theme in their dojo even as they've grown over the years. This clan's use of orkin decorations throughout the entire dojo maintains an expensive-looking
Oh my god.
The founder explains that they liked how the orkin decorations remind them of an old, expensive-looking pocket watch, and they used to only use those decorations for that reason, but they've since expanded to using corpus decorations as well because they like that gear quality too. The clan is called Clockworks after all. The center of the clan's main hub was designed to look like an hourglass, again maintaining their theme throughout. Naturally, a clan called Clockworks wouldn't be complete without a state-of-the-art clock tower. And yes, it has bells. Finally, an ornate courtroom. The layout took inspiration from the courtroom in the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. And that cuckoo clock is another great use of the clan's theme. Oh, and yes, of course there's a bell up there too. It's so cool that you've maintained a theme for your ever-growing clan, Clockworks. The dojo looks gorgeous. Up next, the Spanish PC clan we're going to tour does a beautiful job creating grand buildings. Vamos a verlo. We're now stepping into Umbra Coliseum. Founding warlord Zork says, this zone is special. It was inspired by the Roman Colosseum, a place of important battles. It's also a tribute to our dear Excalibur Umbra, and the Warframe that started it all, Excalibur. And our next beautiful structure, Hydroid's Lighthouse. Zork says, another wonder of the ancient world, inspired by the Great Lighthouse of Alexandria. When we built it, we had the idea to add Hydroid's name as a tribute to this special farming warframe. In the water, you can see Hydroid's Kraken, lurking in the waters to destroy its enemies.
That is awesome.
What a great effect it has, adding that creature from the depths next to this beautiful building. Finally,
People are
an
insane.
homage to the clan's 4 principles. In founding warlord Zork's own words, those principles are 1. Play for fun. 2. Help and teach. 3. Order and respect. 4. Life and personal growth. These principles are what made our clan active for 5 years. Well, your designs are a testament to a great clan. Gracias por compartir tu dojo con nosotros, Clan of Fuel. Just 2 stops remain on our tour, Tenno, and they're coming up shortly.
Hi, it's Megan again, and I'm back with another friendly reminder to relink your Twitch account to your Warframe account if you have not done so since the launch of Twitch Drops 2.0 back in February 2021. This is very important for receiving drops as well as giving drops as a streamer. A relink must happen if you have not already done so. Go to warframe.com/user and choose to unlink your account and then relink it. It's simple. Hope you're enjoying the show.
I got deals. Come do my sale, come do my sale. Gotta dump this merch or I go to jail. Just kidding, friend. But seriously, I need to sell this stuff quick.
A warrior's world is one of fire. We long to remember the faces of those we love. But those faces have now changed. Prepare yourself. The day you had hoped would never come is nigh.
Gun, gun, gun.
Into the void, now me girls and me boys, from mother's hands we go. We'll be sailing to the sun till the voyage is done, then we'll be sleeping in the cold below. Sisters, below, below, we're going where the winds don't blow. Yes, we're all bound down to the deep, and we'll all be sleeping in the cold below, sleeping in the cold below.
Ship is for the hard and the quick. We roll our load and go.
There's a living to be made, and there's hell to pay.
and we'll all be sleeping in the cold below, sleeping in the cold below.
높은 곳 귀한 분 귀신같이 날리는 황금손도 있다네.
傷つけ抱きしめ蹴りつけ慰め暗いそこでと
Ooh.
Won't you lay me down on the crown of crowns and I'll be sleeping in the cold below.
Sisters below, below, we're going where the winds don't blow. Yes, we're all bound down to the deep and we'll all be sleeping in the cold. Sisters below, below, we're going where the winds don't blow. Yes, we're all bound down to the deep and we'll all be sleeping in the cold below, below, sleeping in the cold below, below, sleeping in the cold below.
차가운 금이 바다.
Sleeping in the cold below.
Оставьте на холодном дне. Till we're all sleeping in the cold below.
Guys. Awesome.
Hi Tenno, this is a friendly reminder to make sure your Twitch account is linked to your Warframe account so you can receive Twitch drops while watching TennoCon 2021. To link your Twitch account to your Warframe account, go to warframe.com/user and click the sync link to link. Just make sure you're logged into the Warframe account that you want to receive the drops on. This year, for watching throughout the day, you can get a Grineer Gunblade weapon. During Tenno Live, watch for a free Loki Prime. Enjoy TennoCon 2021.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Langer, and I'm the Development Director for Unity Project for Relief of Homelessness in London, Ontario, Canada. Thank you, and enormous thanks to Digital Extremes for hosting this spectacular virtual convention, and thank you for your participation in TennoCon 2021. Unity Project provides emergency shelter and supportive housing for adults and youth of all genders who are struggling to escape and to avoid homelessness. Because housing with supports is the solution to homelessness, and we are thrilled to have this opportunity to engage with you, the players, in finding solutions to the growing crisis of homelessness in London and in cities and towns everywhere. We hope that you enjoy using your skills and your attributes in Warframe here at TennoCon 2021, and then please channel those skills and attributes in the fight against homelessness in your own communities. Thank you.
Hey.
Hello, Tennos from around the world.
Hey, fellow Tenno.
Hello. Greetings.
Hello.
Bună tuturor. Swazdula.
Swazdula, TennoCon.
Olá a todos os Tennos.
Hello, Tenno.
Hello, Tenno.
Hello, Tenno.
Bonjour, Tenno.
Hello, fellow Tenno.
Hello, fellow Tenno.
Hi, Tenno.
Hello, fellow Tenno.
Hello, TennoCon.
Hello.
Greetings from Russia, fellow Tenno comrades.
From Romania.
From Iran.
From Ukraine.
From the west of France.
From India.
From Uruguay.
From Turkey. From Greenville, South Carolina.
From Thailand.
From the UK.
From Indonesia.
From the US.
From Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
From England.
From Brazil, my fellow Tennos.
In California, fellow Tenno.
From Thailand.
From Germany to fellow Tenno from all around the world.
오베론 사이코!
I'm so pumped for this year's TennoCon.
It's an honor for me to wish you a good time watching TennoCon 2021.
Let's get ready to go where the winds don't blow this TennoCon.
And thank you, DE, for creating a game that connects us all.
Hi, it's Megan again, and I'm back with another friendly reminder to relink your Twitch account to your Warframe account if you have not done so since the launch of Twitch Drops 2.0 back in February 2021. This is very important for receiving drops as well as giving drops as a streamer. A relink must happen if you have not already done so. Go to warframe.com/user and choose to unlink your account and then relink it. It's simple. Hope you're enjoying the show.
Cool. I do have to get going at some point. Unfortunately. Oh. TennoCon.
2021 Community Art Show and Cosplay Contest. My name is Megan Everett, and I am once again your honorable host for this show. Now, if you're familiar with Primetime, more recently Home Time, you will know that we are absolutely obsessed with everything Warframe art. And of course, because TennoCon 2021 is, again, digital this year, we asked you to submit all of your art, your props, your cosplay, and literally everything in between. And we received over 250 submissions, which I will attempt to show you over the next hour in this segment. It was extremely difficult to narrow down to our featured finalists for each category, and I'm going to try and show you them, all of them, as many as I can, in some way or another. And our featured finalists this year are actually going to receive not only a little digital platinum, but also the award as well, because you are a featured finalist. And following the art show, we're going to go right into the cosplay contest. And this year we had some really awesome cosplay. And new this year is the cosplay contest trophies for all of our finalist winners that you can actually display in-game in your orbiters, in your dojo, however you see fit, to show off the fact that maybe you got best in show, maybe you got the Ortus Punny Award. You'll have to stay tuned and find out. And of course, each of those winners will also receive a Prime Access. So keep in mind that there were some submissions that we could not include because either it didn't meet the criteria or time constraints, but we really tried to jam-pack this show with all of the art that we could. And again,
Yeah, I think I'm gonna end it here.
all of this hard work and spent the time on this art, so thank you again for doing that.
It's getting late for me,
Let's
so.
jump into the community art show, and we're going to start it off with hand-drawn art. First up in the hand-drawn category, in no particular order, this is by Bleached Rainbows. It is a detailed ink drawing of Nidus in his Frike Deluxe skin. And if you caught the art show hosted by Daniel Sokolowski earlier, you will have seen that Nidus Prime is in our future. So I predict a lot more Nidus fan art and Bleached Rainbows. I hope to see a Nidus Prime fan art.
I'm hitting all the wrong buttons. Apparently, my mic input got deleted again. But I gotta get here for today. I'll be back later tonight. We're actually gonna be playing Warframe. So yeah. That was fun actually. And we got to see cool concepts of what to do. What else I gotta say? But yeah, I'm looking forward to Live, but I have to cut the stream because around this time my computer starts to struggle, so I gotta leave you here and I'll see you later tonight. And but until then, thank you for watching and until my next live stream, I'll see you next time. Remember, let the shadows embrace you.